everyone! Welcome to the stream! Welcome! And you know what day it is? It's December the 23rd as the time of this stream. So, oh my god, and my PNG is dying. Hello everyone! As said in the title of the stream, we'll be reading a very fitting story by the end of this year. It's called The Christmas Carol by... Charles Dickens. We're gonna read the story of Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Broke out the tome again. Yes, this tome is for the one and only story time sessions in our streams. Oh my gosh! Look, it's December 23. Time passes by. It's like 3 days. Ay, wait, tama ba? No, 2 days from now, it's already Christmas. So, actually, technically, tomorrow is Christmas Eve. And then the next day after that, it's Christmas. So, I think this is like the best story to fit it. And to wrap up my entire stream for the year 2022. Sometimes I already think it's 2023 already, but it's actually, I have to remind myself, it's still 2022. But I hope everyone is staying warm and cozy, especially for those who are in the snowy areas. Stay warm. And for those who aren't, I think it's still pretty cold. So yeah, everyone still has to stay warm. I really don't know what snow is. So kunyari, look, we have snow here in the fucking street. We have snow here, just here, indoors, for some reason. But, oh god, I just watched, actually, with my history in the Christmas Carol, I watched 2 versions of the Christmas Carol. It's Barbie and the Disney one. We're negative even in Texas. Wait, that's really cold if it's meant to hit negative. Oh god. Warm yourself around the fire, get some hot chocolate, and maybe a big old blankie comforter. Is blanket and comforter 2 different things? I know they are. Blanket's like thinner than comforter. Huh? Negative, wait, what do I use? Fahrenheit or Celsius? Oh, wait! Oh, shit, that's beyond freezing. Yeah, it's beyond freezing. I'm not good with Celsius and Fahrenheit. Oh my god, that is really cold. You're warm now. That's nice. You gotta stay warm in the cold. You gotta, before anything else happens. But, welcome. Oh my god, why do you say welcome again? Nawala sa isip. Again. Oh god. My history with the Christmas Carol is with Barbie. That's my first time I encountered the Christmas Carol is Barbie: A Christmas Carol. Like, I used to watch it a lot because I just like the protagonist in Barbie is different from the usual Barbie protagonist. And then the other one was the Disney version of A Christmas Carol. Was it Disney? I think it was Disney. The one with the semi-realism thing. Reminds of Polar Express though, in the Disney's Christmas Carol. Also, if I have to pick, I think I'd prefer Disney's Christmas Carol over Barbie's. Because it's I don't know, maybe it's just the Disney's Christmas Carol. It didn't felt like a Disney movie. That's why it was a shock for me when wait, it's by Disney? It really didn't feel like a Disney production. No offense or anything, but it really felt like who made Polar Express? Wait, who made Polar Express? Who made this? Wait, no. Yeah, by the people who made Polar Express. Warner Bros. Yeah, the Christmas Carol by Disney feels like a Warner Bros. Because of the different style they took in, and then with the semi-realism, and then it's unusually dark. And literally dark sometimes because I watch it in the cinema. I think in one segment of the movie, it was so dark I couldn't see anything. But to be fair, you are supposed to be in a dark cinema, so I guess there's that. But it's literally dark. Sometimes I can't see what the hell is in the screen. But again, to be fair, I watch it in 3D. Back then, oh my gosh, my 3D shit was a thing. I'm just remembering. Oh my gosh, oh, the Christmas Carol, yeah. But instead of a movie, I'll be reading through the story itself. How many chapters are this? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's just 5 chapters? Oh, okay. You know, I thought Christmas Carol was a bit longer than that. Really bit longer. 3D movies fell off super hard. Yeah, I never see I never see in cinema now in 3D glasses and all that. I think the 3D glasses were used to be red and blue, but now it's just some shades or something. But now I don't see it anymore. Maybe because of what happened? 2 years. But yeah, 3D movies kind of fell off, but I still remember my fondness over it. Christmas Carol's 3D movie was kind of nice, especially the snow. It felt great watching it in 3D. The snow was like, whoa, it's popping. The Disney ones that I saw too, yeah. I think that's like the Christmas Carol movie. Is that like one of our famous ones? Ish. Wait, why is it 6? Wait, why is it 6? Disney. I'm pretty sure it was Disney. Yeah, it was Disney. Why is it 6? Why is it 6 out of 10? I liked it. I really. It was 2009 too. This is by 2009. Damn. Oh wow. It released around November too. It didn't made that much box office. I remember Transition. Oh yes, The Ghost of a Christmas Future. Yes, that was beautiful. That was beautiful and horrifying at the same time. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves in the damn story in the movie. Okay, to be fair. Disney. I think the Disney's Christmas Carol was really out there, and it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. Christmas movies of all time, but I don't watch it. I just watched it once. It was during the cinema when it released, and I already loved it. But looking back at it, that was a horrifying transition. Oh my god! Within a few more minutes, we'll be starting our story. Let's just chill, chat a bit before we start with chapter 1. Before we were just chill muna, huh? Because just cozy yourselves in a cold or afternoon Christmas 22 or the 23rd. Either way, I mean, I get to celebrate Christmas more than once. Nice. And tomorrow, tomorrow is Christmas Eve. I can't wait for Christmas Eve too, because there's gonna be a lot of food for start, really a lot of food. And I don't think I'll be able to finish all of it within the same hour, the same day as well. So I guess I have to be eating the same food for 2 weeks at least. So many damn food gets prepared for Christmas Eve. I won't be able to finish everything. So great food for the next few weeks, I guess, and then up to New Year probably. But I mean, I don't mind Christmas. I like Christmas. It feels warm and fuzzy, and it's we finally reached the end of the year. What's the next year will have in store for us? It's Christmas is not only a day of living, but it kind of feels congrats, you reached the final checkpoint of the year. Food for holidays is always good. Yes, it's very good. I won't be able to control myself. I get to eat so many new things I never tried. I think there's this one type of noodle. I don't know what it's called, but I still don't know the difference between malabon and palabok. I think I tried it during Christmas Eve celebration. I still don't know the difference. They look the same to me because I didn't like it before because it looks weird. And the noodles are pretty thick too. They're think of it as noodles with ano sauce pa ginamit doon? It's some palabok is something with boiled egg and chopped vegetables and all that. I didn't like it, but I decided to try it for Christmas Eve, and then now look at me. Anytime I see anytime there's a palabok available, sure, why not? And there's this one thing, I never understood why I liked it before, but now I don't. I don't like it. Okay, you know what a hot dog is, right? You know what a hot dog, right? Yeah, the sausage, whatever. Difference is might just be a slight change of ingredients. That's what I think. Well, but at the same time, it's still no difference. But anyway, you know what a hot dog? Diba? Hot dog, put it on a stick, right? Okay, hot dog on a stick. Fine, that's normal. But I don't understand. I used to eat this a lot. When you put marshmallows on top of the hot dog, like, and then you eat it together with the hot dog. Like, I ate like long time ago, I used to eat like a lot of those, like 5 sticks of marshmallow and hot dogs on a stick, and now looking back at it and tasting it, why did I like it? Like, I don't know, the powdery sweetness of a marshmallow plus the oil of a hot dog. I don't get it. Why did I like it? Why? And I don't know if people still eat those things today, but I know back then, so many. I've seen it everywhere. Everywhere. Everyone's eating hot dog and marshmallows in a stick. It's not marshmallow though. It's like, oh my gosh. You know what a marshmallow is that you use for s'mores, right? Just put it with the hot dog and then just eat it together. That's it. And I never understood why I liked it. Like, I liked it so much. Now, I don't. This is the same with me with cotton candy. I used to love cotton candy, but now I hate it with a burning passion. Oh my god! Because I think it's because I ate too much of cotton candy in one sitting, and that's why I hated it. And I hate it now so much. I swore off cotton candy completely. Oh my god! Barbie! Okay, for sure. We're gonna start with it. I want to talk about Christmas celebration because why not? Why not? Never heard of that combo before? It's a thing, but I don't know if anyone does it these days anymore. I know it was everywhere long ago, but now I don't know if everyone still does it. But I don't see it anymore. So they probably somewhere around the line they kind of stopped. Like, I don't know why they stopped, but good thing though, because oh my gosh, I hate it. I hate that. Oh god, that. Anyway, we're just talking about food, okay? We're gonna start with chapter 1 of A Christmas Carol. Okay. For real. Christmas Carol, for real. We're gonna start with chapter 1. What am I gonna say again? Sit tight, relax, and enjoy a happy reading of A Christmas Carol. Chapter 1. Wait, let me zoom in. This text is so stupidly small. I hate it. I can't see it. I have to zoom in the damn page to 175%. I can't read it. 100%. Okay, chapter 1. Marley's Ghost. Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Chief mourner? What the hell is that supposed to be? Like someone mourns and that's their job? Just to weep? Okay. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon. Is this a dialogue? Is this a fucking dialogue? I don't even know. Change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge, but there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. But the wisdom of our ancestors is in the smile, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat, empathetically, that Marley is dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Wait, who the fuck is the narrator? Why is it first person? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor. Executor? Like the fucking Pokemon? Oh my... I hate this. Executor. I know. Oh, yeah, getting closer like a Pokemon. God damn it. His sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole residuary legate, his sole friend and sole mourner. And even Scourge was not so dreadfully caught up by the sad event, but that he was an excellent man of business. And on the very day of the funeral, and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. The mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to a point I started from. There is no doubt that Marley's dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful come of the story I'm going to relate. If we were not perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, there would be nothing more remarkable in his taking stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own ramparts than there would be any other middle-aged gentleman rashly turning out after dark in a breezy spot, say St. Paul's churchyard for instance, literally to astonish his son's weak mind. You should read Hamlet one day. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There stood, year afterwards, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. I just read the fucking sentence. Wait, did I just read the same sentence twice? Wait lang. There it stood, years afterwards, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Thanks. What? Thanks for telling me that the damn firm is known Scrooge and Marley, despite. God. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge. What? Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge. Is this a fucking sentence? Wait. Wait, is this actually a sentence? Wait. This is... Yeah, that's actually a sentence. Okay. I'm surprised I was... I think. Now, where the hell I had to zoom in just to make sure. Okay. Scrooge. I fucking misprint. I fucking lost it. Oh my god. Where did I? Okay, Scrooge. And sometimes Marley. But he answered to both names. Wait, Scrooge answered to Marley too. Why? It was all same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. Scrooge, squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scrapping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hand and sharp as a flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, and made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly. So, as usual, I can't pronounce some words. Shrewdly, yun, in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows, and his rearing chin. What? He carried on his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his coffee in the dog days and didn't know that it thawed 1 degree at Christmas. I'm trying to read fucking words. Oh my god. External heat and cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm, no wintry weather chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than he. No falling snow was more intent upon its purpose. No pelting rain less open to entreaty. Foul weather did not know where to have him. The heaviest rain and snow and hail and sleet could boast of the advantage over him in only one respect. They often came down handsomely, and Scrooge never did. Nobody stopped him in the street to say, with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman once all in his life inquired the way to such a place of Scrooge. Even the blind men's dogs appeared to know him, and when they saw him coming on, one would tug their owners into doorways and up courts, and then would wag their tails as though as they say, "No eye at all is better than an evil eye, Dark Master." That was a dog, right? That was a dog. Yeah, that was a dog's dialogue. But what did Scrooge care? It was the everything he liked, very thing he liked. To the edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance. What was the knowing once called nuts to Scrooge? Once upon a time, it's only once upon a time, okay. Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, fogging with owl, and he could hear the people in the court outside go whizzing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts, and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them. The city clocks had only just gone 3. But it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day. The candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices. The ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole. It was so dense without that although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms. To see the dingy cloud come drooping down, obscuring everything one might have thought that nature lived hard by, was brewing on a large scale. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, whom in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank was copying letters. Oh my gosh, I dropped something. Tank was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was very much smaller. It looked like one coal. He could not replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. So surely as the clerk came in with a shower? What? Shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Where the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which comfort, not being a man of a strong imagination, he failed. Okay, so this is a kid. "Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheery voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, whom came upon him so quickly that it was his first intimation. He had his approach. Bah. Fuck. That sounds like a fucking G. Bah, said Scrooge. Humbug. He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge, that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome. His eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle," said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas. What the fuck am I reading? What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Wow." "Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, "Bah!" again, and followed up with humbug. "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be?" returned the uncle. "When I live in a world such as full as this, Merry Christmas? Out upon Merry Christmas? What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself in a year older and not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I would work my will..." What the fuck? This was not a sentence. "If I would work my will," said Scrooge indignantly. "Every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and burned the stake of a holly through his heart. He should." "Uncle," pleaded nephew, returned the uncle sternly. "Keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep in mine." "Keep it," repeated Scrooge's nephew, "but you don't keep it." "Let me leave it alone then," said Scrooge. "Much good may it do to you. Much good it has ever done to you." "There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say," returned the nephew. Christmas among the rest, but I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time when it has come around come around from the veneration to its sacred name and origin. If anything, belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year where men and women seem by one consent to open up their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race creatures bound on their journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it. The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded. And they all oh my god. And they all gave a round of applause. Yeah. Why am I saying that? Where was I? The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded, becoming immediately sensible of the impropriety. He poked the fire, extinguished the last pale spark forever. Let me hear another sound from you, said Scrooge. And you keep your Christmas by losing your situation. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir, he added, turning to his nephew. I wonder you don't go to Parliament. Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine us tomorrow. Scrooge said he would see him. Yes, indeed. He went to a whole length of the expression, but he said that he would see him in the extremity first. But why? Cried Scrooge's nephew. Why? Why did you get married? Said Scrooge. Wait, was the nephew not a child? I thought the nephew was a child. It was a fucking adult. I thought it was a... Oh shit! Oh, you know what? I admit, the nephew never... When I think of nephew, I immediately think, oh god, it's a baby. Oh dear. Okay. Oh my god. Even though it's Scrooge is old, I guess makes it... Yeah, I thought he was talking to a kid. Oh my gosh, he was talking to a grown man. I made a damn mistake. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god, that's so embarrassing. Okay. High-pitched voice, don't worry. Yeah, he just, this nephew, probably, that's his normal voice, yes. I'm gonna keep the high-pitched voice. Fuck it. Because I fell in love. Because you fell in love, growled Scrooge. Dialogue. As if that were the only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon. Hey, Uncle. You never came to see me before that happened. Why give it a reason for not coming now? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I am sorry with all my heart. I am sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. We have never had any quarrel to which I have been a party, but I have made at the trial in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So Merry Christmas, Uncle. Uncle? What the fuck is... Good afternoon, said Scrooge. And a Happy New Year. Good afternoon, said Scrooge. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Thank you for the hydrate. Thank you. Thank you for the pulse to check as well. Thank you. Thank you. That feels nice. His nephew left the room without an angry word, notwithstanding. He stopped at the outer door to bestow the greetings of the season on the clerk, who, as cold as he was warmer than Scrooge, for he returned them cordially. There's another fellow, muttered Scrooge, who overheard him. My clerk, within 15 shillings, what's a shillings of money? Within 15 shillings a week, and a wife and a family. Talking about Merry Christmas, I'm not tired to beldam. This lunatic, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let two other people in. They were poorly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood, with their hats off in Scrooge's office. They had books and papers in their hands and bowed to him. Scrooge and Marley's, I believe, said one of the gentlemen, referring to his list. May I have a pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley? Mr. Marley has been dead for these 7 years, Scrooge replied. He died 7 years ago, this very night. We have no doubt his liberality is well presented by his surviving partner, said the gentleman, presenting the credentials. It certainly was, for they have... It certainly was, for they have been two kindred spirits, and an ominous word, liberality. Scrooge frowned and shook his head and handed the credentials back. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, said the gentleman, taking up his pen, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some light provision for the poor and destitute, for who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are wanting common comfort, sir. Are there no prisons? Asked Scrooge. Plenty of prisons, said the gentleman, laying down the pen again. And the union workhouses? Demanded Scrooge. Are they still in operation? They are. Still, returned the gentleman. I wish I could say that they were not. The training on the poor law are full in vigor then? Said Scrooge. Both are very busy, sir. Oh, I was afraid, from what you said at first, that something could to stop them in their useful course, said Scrooge. I am very glad to hear it. Under the impression that they scarcely furnish the Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude, returned the gentleman. A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when we want is keenly felt and abundance of rejoices. What shall I put you down for? Nothing, Scrooge replied. You wish to be anonymous? I wish to be left alone, said Scrooge. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas. I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishment I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there. Many would rather die. If they would rather die, said Scrooge, they had better do it and decrease the Oh, Jesus fucking Scrooge! Oh my God! They had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Besides, excuse me, I don't know that, but you might know it. Observed the gentleman. It's not my business, Scrooge returned. It's enough for a man to understand his own business, not interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Being clear that it would be useless to pursue their point, the gentleman withdrew. Scrooge resumed his labors with an improved opinion of himself, in a more ferocious temper than usual with him. Meanwhile, the fog and darkness thickened, so that the people ran about with flaring links, proffering their service to go before horses and carriages, and conduct them on their way. The ancient tower of a church, whose gruff old bell was always peeping silly down at Scrooge, out at a Gothic window in the wall, became invisible, and struck the hours and quarters in the clouds with tremendous vibrations, and afterward, as if teeth were chattering its frozen head up there, the cold became intense. In the main street, at the corner of the court, some laborers were repairing gas pipes, and had lighted a great fire, the brazier. That's how you pronounce it, right? Brazier? Brazier then. Round which a party of ragmen and boys were gathered, warming their hands and winking their eyes before of the blaze in rapture. The water plug being left in solitude, its overflow suddenly congealated and turned to misanthropic ice. The brightness of the shops were holly springs, and berries crackled in the lamp heat of the windows, and made pale faces ruddy as they passed. Poulterers' and grocers' trades became a splendid joke, a glorious pageant. Pageant? That's how you spell pageant? With which it was next to impossible to believe that such dull principles as bargain and sale had anything to do. The Lord Mayor, in the stronghold of the mighty mansion house, gave orders to his 50 cooks and butlers to keep Christmas as a Lord Mayor's household should. And even the little tailor, whom he had fined 5 shillings the previous Monday for being drunk and bloodthirsty. Excuse me? I'm sorry? Am I reading it right? Even the little tailor whom the mayor had fined 5 shillings on a previous Monday for being drunk and bloodthirsty in the streets? What the hell was the tailor doing? What do you mean bloodthirsty? Oh my god. What are you doing in the streets bloodthirsty, man? Stirred up tomorrow's pudding in his garret, while his lean wife and baby sallied out to buy the beef. Foggier yet and colder, piercing, searching, biting cold. If the good Saint Dunstan had but nipped the evil spirit nose with such a weather as that, instead of using his familiar weapons, then indeed he would have roared to a lusty purpose. The owners of one scant young nose, gnawed by the mumbled by the hungry of the cold as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with a Christmas carol. But at the first sound of God bless... Wait, is this a song? I don't even know the song. God bless you, merry gentlemen, may nothing you dismay. Scrooge seized the rule with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror, leaving the keyhole to the fog even a more congenial frost. At the length of hour of shutting up, the counting house arrived, and with an ill-will Scrooge dismounted from his stool and tactfully admitted the fact to the extent of the task, who instantly snuffed his candle out and put on his hat. Let's see. You want all day tomorrow, I suppose? Said Scrooge. If quite convenient, sir. It is not convenient, said Scrooge, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. The clerk smiled faintly. And yet, said Scrooge, you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work? The clerk observed that it was only once a year. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December, said Scrooge, buttoning his great coat to the chin. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next morning. The clerk promised that he would. Scrooge walked out with a growl. The office was closed in a twinkling, and the clerk, with long-lasting end of his white comforter dangling below his waist, for his boasted no great coat, went down the slide on Cornhill at the end of a lane of boys 20 times in honor of its being Christmas Eve, and then ran home to Camden Down as hard as he could pelt to play at the blind man's buff. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner as in his usual melancholy tavern, having read all the newspapers and beguiled in the rest of the evening in his banker's book. He went home to bed. He lived in chambers which has one belongs to his deceased partner. There were a gloomy sight of rooms in a lowering pile of building up in a yard, where it had so little business to be that one could scarcely help fancying it must have run there where it was a young horse, and playing at hide and seek with other houses. Wait, what? Horse? No! Help fancy it must have run there when it was a young house. Okay. And playing hide and seek with the other houses and forgetting his way out again. It was old enough now and drear enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, and other rooms being all let out as offices. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its very stone, was fain to grope with his hands. The fog and frost was so hung about the black old gateway of the house that it seemed as if the genius of the weather sat in mournful meditation of the threshold. Now, in fact, there was nothing at all particular about the knock on the door, except it was very large. It was also, in fact, that Scrooge had seen at night and morning during his whole residence in that place. Also, that Scrooge had as little of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London, even including, which is a bold word, the corporation, aldermen, and the livery. Livery? Or livery? I don't know. Let it be also borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon. And then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw it in the knocker, without it undergoing any immediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face. Marley's face. It was not impenetrable shadow as the other objects in the yard were, but had dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in the dark cellar. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scourge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles and turned up on his ghostly forehead. The hair was curiously stirred, as if breath of hot air, and though his eyes were open, they were perfectly motionless. And its livid color made it horrible, but its horror seemed to be in spite of the face beyond its control, rather than part of his own expression. As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again. To say he was not startled, or that his blood was not conscious of a terrible sensation which had been a stranger from infancy, would be untrue. But he would put his hand upon the key he had relinquished and turn it sturdily, walked in and lighted his candle. He did pause, with a moment's irresolution. Before he shut the door, he did look cautiously behind it first, as if half expecting to be terrified by the sight of Marley's pigtails sticking out into the hole. But there was nothing on the back of the door except the screws and nuts that hold the knocker on. He said, "Pooh? Pooh? Oh, it's Pooh. Like we need the Pooh. Is it Pooh? Pooh? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this dialogue? Pooh Pooh. What? Okay." And close it with a hung. The sound resounded through the house like a thunder. Every room above and every cask of the wine merchant's cellars below appeared to have a separate trail of echoes of its own. Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door and walked across the hall, and up to the stairs slowly too, trimming candle as he went. You may have talked vaguely about driving a coach and six up a good old flight of stairs, or through a bad young Act of Parliament, but I meant to say when you might have a hares up the staircase and take it broadwise, with a splinter bar towards the wall and the door towards the balustrades, and done easily. What's a balustrade? There was a plenty of width for that, and room to spare, which is perhaps the reason why Scrooge thought that he saw locomotive hearse going on before him in the gloom. Half a dozen gas lamps out on the street would have lighted the entries too well. But you may suppose it was pretty dark with Scrooge dip. Okay, next page. Up next on the next page, let me just scroll down a bit. Up Scrooge went, not caring a button for that. Darkness is cheap and Scrooge liked it. But before he shut his heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. He had just enough recollection of the face and to desire to do that. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, a small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready, and a little saucepan of gruel. Scrooge had the cold in his head. Upon the hob, nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging up in a suspicious attitude against the wall. Lumber room as usual, old fire guard, old shoes, 2 fish baskets, and a washing stand on 3 legs and a poker. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he took his cravat and put on his dressing gown and slippers. With his nightcap, he sat down before the fire takes gruel. It was a very low fire indeed. Nothing on such a bitter night. He was obligated to sit close to it and brood over it. Before he could extract the least sensation of warmth from such a handful of fuel, the fireplace was an old one, built by some Dutch merchant long ago, paved with all round with quaint Dutch tiles designed to illustrate the scriptures. There were Cains and Abels, Pharaoh's daughters, queens of Sheba, angelic messengers descending through the air on clouds like feather beds, Abraham's, Belshazzars, and apostles putting off to the sea in butter boats. Hundreds of figures were tracked his thoughts, yet in the face of Marley, 7 years dead, came like an ancient prophet's rod, swallowed up the whole. If each smooth tile had been blank at first, with the power to shape some picture on its surface which, from the disjoint fragments of his thoughts, there would be a copy of old Marley's head on every one. Humbug, said Scrooge, walked across the room. After several turns, he sat down again. As he threw his head back in the chair, his glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell, that hung in the room and communicated for some purpose now forgotten with a chamber in the highest story of the building. It was the greatest astonishment and strange, unspeakable dread. As he looked, he saw that this bell began to swing. It swung so softly in the outset that scarcely made a sound, but soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house. This might have lasted half a minute, or a minute, but it seemed an hour. The bells ceased as they had begun, together. They were succeeded by a clanking noise, deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain over the cask of some wine merchant's cellar. Scrooge then remembered to have heard that ghosts haunted in houses were described as dragging chains. The cellar door flew open, and with a booming sound, and then they heard a noise? Wait, what? Heard a noise much louder, on the floors below and coming up the stairs. Then, coming straight to the door. "Humbug still," said Scrooge. "I won't believe it." His color changed though when, without a pause, it came on through the heavy door and passed into the room before his eyes. Upon its coming in, its dying flame leaped up, and as though it cried, "I know him! Mary's ghost!" and fell again. Let me see. Wait. It's the same face. The very same. Mary in his pigtail, the usual waistcoat, tights and boots, the tassels on the latter bristling like his pigtail and his coat skirts. The hair upon his head, the chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and wound about him like a tail, and it was made, for Scrooge observed it closely, of cash boxes, keys, and padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses wrought in steel. His body was transparent, so that Scrooge, observing him and looking through his waistcoat, he could see 2 buttons on his coat behind. Scrooge had often heard it said that Mary had no bowels, but he had never believed until now. Nor did he believe it even now. Though he looked phantom through and through, he saw it standing before him. Though he felt a chilling influence of his dead-cold eyes, marked the very texture of the folded kerchief bound in about its head and chin, which Rapper had not observed before. He was still incredulous and fought against his senses. "How now?" said Scrooge, with caustic and cold as ever. "What do you want from me?" Okay, what voice should I give it, Mark? I guess I could... can I give him an old voice? Think of what voice should I give him. Probably an old voice. Much! Oh my gosh, every time I do that voice. Every time. Oh my god, every time I do that voice, it's just making me chuckle a bit. Who are you? Ask me who I was. Who are you then? Said Scrooge, raising his voice. You're particular for a shade. He was going to say to a shade, but substitute this as more appropriate. In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. Can you sit down? Asked Scrooge, looking doubtfully at him. I can. Do it then. Scrooge asked a question because he didn't know whether a ghost so transparent he might find himself in a condition to take a chair, and felt that in the event of its being impossible, that it may involve the necessity of an embarrassing explanation. But the ghost sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it. You don't believe me, observed the ghost. I don't, said Scrooge. What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your senses? I don't know, said Scrooge. Why do you doubt your senses? Because, said Scrooge, a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an undone potato. There's much more grave than of a grave of you, whatever you are. Scrooge was not in the habit of cracking jokes, nor did he feel in his heart by any means to waggish them. Waggish? The truth is that he tried to be smart, as a means of distracting his own attention and keeping down his terror, for the spectre's voice disturbed the very marrow of his bone. To sit staring at those fixed glazed eyes, in the silence of the moment would play, Scrooge felt the very deuce with him. There was something very awful too. The spectre was being provided with an infernal atmosphere of its own. Scrooge could not feel it himself, but it was clearly the case. For though the coat sat perfectly motionless, its hair and skirts and tassels were agitated by the hot vapor from an oven. "You see this toothpick?" said Scrooge, returning quickly to the charge, for the reason just aside and wishing, though it were only for a second, to divert the vision's stony gaze from itself. "I do," replied the ghost. "You're not looking at it," said Scrooge. "But I see it," said the ghost. "Notwithstanding." "Well," said Scrooge. "What?" returned Scrooge. "I have but to swallow this, and be for the rest of my days persecuted by a region of goblins, all from my own creation. Humbug, I tell you, humbug!" And the spirit raised a frightful cry. It shook its chain with such dismal and appalling noise that Scrooge held on tight to his chair to save himself from falling in a swoon. But how much greater was his horror when the phantom taking off the bandage around his head, as if were to warm its wear indoors, its lower jaw dropped down to its breast. Scrooge fell upon his knees, passed his hand before his face. "Mercy!" he said. "Dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" "Man of the worldly mind," replied the ghost. "Do you believe me or not?" "I do," said Scrooge. "I must. But why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they have come to me?" "It is required of every man," the ghost returned, "that the spirit within him would walk abroad among his fellow men, and travel far and wide. That if the spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, what it might have shared on earth, and turn happiness." Again, the spectre raised a cry and shook the chain and wrung its shadowy hands. "You are fettered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why."
"Tell me why ain't nothing but a heart."
Oh, God. "I wear the chain I forged in life," replied the ghost. "I made link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is this pattern strange to you?" Scrooge trembled more and more. "Or would you know," pressured the ghost, "the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was full and heavy as long as this. 7 Christmas Eves ago, you have labored it since it's a ponderous chain." Scrooge glanced about him on the floor, in the expectation of finding himself surrounded by some 50 or 60 phantoms of iron cable. He could see nothing. "Jacob," he said, imploring. "Oh, Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob." "I have none to give," the ghost replied. "It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and it's conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you of what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I can't linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me. In my life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing holes. Where his journey lies before me." It was a habit with Scrooge. When he had become thoughtful, he put his hand in his breeches pocket. Pondering on what the ghost said, he did now, without lifting up his eyes or getting off his knees. "You must have been very slow about it, Jacob," Scrooge observed in a businesslike manner, though with humility and deference. "Slow," the ghost repeated. 7 years dead, mused Scrooge, "and traveling all the time." "The whole time," said the ghost. "No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse." "You travel fast?" said Scrooge. "On the wings of wind," replied the ghost. You might got over great quantity of ground in 7 years, said Scrooge. The ghost, on hearing this, set up another cry, and clamped the chain so hideously in the dead silence of the night that the word would have been justified indicating of its nuisance. Is this Scrooge or... Miss Marley. Oh, captive, bound and double ironed, cried the phantom. Not know that ages of incessant labor by immortal creatures, for this earth must pass into eternity before the good of which it is susceptible is all developed. Not all that any Christian spirit working kindly in its little sphere, whether it may be, will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. Not know that all space of regret can make amends for one's life opportunity misused. Yet such as I, such as I. But you were a good man of business, Jacob, patted Scrooge, who now began to apply this to himself. Business! Cried the ghost, wringing his hands again. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trades were... Ano? Were but a drop of water in comprehensive ocean of my business. It held up its chain at arm's length, as if it were the cause of its unavailing grief, and flung it heavily on the ground again. Hey, at this time of the rolling of the year, the spectre said, I suffer most. Why do I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never raised to them? To what blessed star which were the wise men to the poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which light would have conducted me? Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the spectre going on this rate, and began to quake exceedingly. Hear me! Cried the ghost. My time is nearly gone. I will, said Scrooge, but don't be hard upon me. Be flowery. Jacob, pray. How the fuck do I have to say that dialogue? How is it that I've appeared before you in a shape you can see? I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. It was not an agreeable idea. Scrooge shivered and wiped the perspiration off his brow. That is no light part of my penance, pursued the ghost. I am tonight to warn you that you have a chance to hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of procuring Ebenezer. You're always a good friend to me, said Scrooge. Thank ye. You will be haunted, resumed the ghost, by 3 spirits. Scrooge's countenance fell almost as low as the ghost has done. Is that a chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob? He demanded a faltering voice. It is. I think I'd rather not, said Scrooge. Without their visits, said the ghost, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Can't I take them all at once and have it over, Jacob? Hinted Scrooge. Expect the second on the next night and at the same hour, the third on the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look and see me no more. Look at that. For your own sake, you remember to what has passed between us. And it was said in these words, the spectre threw its wrapper from the table and bound around its head as before. Scrooge knew this by the smart of sound feet it made. When its jaws were brought together by bandage, he ventured to raise his eyes again, and found his supernatural visitor comfortingly on an erect attitude. He chained its wound over and about its arm. The apparition walked backward from him, and at the very step it took, the window raised itself a little, so that the spectre reached it. It was wide open. It beckoned Scrooge to approach, which he did. When they were 2 paces from each other, Marley's ghost held up its hand, warning him to come no nearer. Scrooge stopped. Not much so in obedience, as in surprise and fear, for on the raising of the hand, he had become sensible of confused noises in the air, incoherent sounds of lamentation and regret, wailings inexpressibly sorrowful and self-accusatory. The spectre, after listening for a moment, joined in the mournful digre, I don't know, and floated upon the bleak, dark night. Scrooge followed to the window, Desperate in his curiosity, he looked out. The air was filled with phantoms, wandering hither and thither in restless haste, moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley's ghost. Some few were linked together. None were free. Many had been personally known to Scrooge in their lives. He had been quite familiar with one old ghost in a white waistcoat, with a monstrous iron safe attached to its ankle, who cried piteously, being unable to assist a wretched woman with an infant, whom it lay below upon the doorstep. Misery with them all was, who really sought to interfere, for all good and human matters, a lost the power forever. Whether these creatures faded into the mist, or mist enshrouded them, he could not tell, but they and their spirits' voices faded together, and the night became as it had been when he walked home. Scrooge closed the window and examined the door which the ghost had entered. It was double locked as he locked with his own hand. The bolts were undisturbed. He tried to say "Humbug," but stopped at the first syllable, and being from the emotion he had undone, or fatigues of the day, or glimpse of the invisible world, or the dull conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, much in need his repose, and went straight to bed, without undressing, and fell asleep upon instant. That's the end of the chapter 1. Yeah, that's end chapter 1. So it basically introduced Marley, the ghost. Yeah, it introduced Marley, the ghosts, what's gonna happen to Scrooge, and all that jazz. It was a good start. Oh, thank you for the poster. Thank you for the highlight and stretch, Tim. Thank you. Wait lang. Thank you. My thoughts on this chapter. It's a nice start for a story. Although I'm remembering the Christmas Carol movie. I don't remember there was a safe ghost on the end of the movie. So I think they just removed it and they made the Disney movie or so. Imagine being told that there's been a ghost lurking around you for years. Hey, at least you got a roommate, isn't it? You got an invisible roommate. You know? Nothing wrong in that. Nothing really wrong in having an invisible roommate. I mean, there's nothing bad in it. But for 7 long years, that seems like a long time, is an understatement. To be fair, I lived for at least 4,000. So yes, 7 years is already a long time to begin with, and ghosts lurking around the corner, yes, that's a thing too. But the next chapter, we're gonna check the first of the 3 spirits. Also, each chapter is a spirit. Okay. So yeah, each chapter is a spirit. I check. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, it's short. The second chapter is short. Huh. Well, before we start the next chapter, I want to say Merry Christmas again. Merry Christmasu for everyone. Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. Because holy shit, we're almost in the holidays. It's just almost there. Just 2 more days. That's why just chill, relax. Maybe sleep on the bed the entire day. Because oh god, it's almost Christmas. Sometimes I think, when once January hits again, and you blink your eyes, oh, it's December, and then 2023 has passed by once more. You know, I would have that. You know, it's just been so fast since I started streaming. Just saying, it's been wild ride since I started streaming around March 2. I think it's around March. Yeah, around March. It's who knew? The fuck you knew? Time would go by this quickly. Who fucking knew? Then soon enough, next year's gonna come. Damn. I already feel nostalgic. It's been just a year and I already feel nostalgic. Exactly, maybe a few months, I already feel nostalgic. Gotta refreeze Maria Carey. Yeah, we gotta put her in the SCP Foundation so she might escape again. She has to be returned to the SCP. Oh my god. Please. Oh my gosh. All I want for Christmas is you. To be fair, the noise, what? The music is nice. Other than Maria Carey is, Christmas in Our Hearts. The other song I know has been played everywhere. And I mean everywhere. In malls, sometimes in the streets, someone's playing it. So who knew? So those are like the two main songs I usually hear. All I Want for Christmas is You and Christmas in Our Heart. That's like literal, and then thus they have to be stored again for the next year. And my Padoru, this is alright. This is the last time my Padoru model will be used, and then I'll make it a redeem. Right. Oh god, right. So yeah, this is gonna be like the last time I'll be using my Padoru removal model for this year, and the next year will be just a redeem until December hits again. Without further ado, we shall start on chapter 2, which is called the first of the three espíritus or spirits. Thank you for the head cut. Thank you, Sim, for the head cut. It means well. Ooh. When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark. Wait, what? Oh, okay. It was so dark that looking out of bed, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls of his chamber, which endeavoring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes, when the chimes of neighboring church struck at 4 quarters, so he listened for the hour. To his great astonishment, the heavy bell went from 6 to 7, and from 7 to 8, regularly up to 12, then stopped. 12! It was past 2 when he went to bed. The clock was wrong. An icicle must have gotten the works. 12! He touched the spring of his repeater to correct this most preposterous clock. Its rabid little pulse beat 12 and stopped. Why isn't it possible? Said Scrooge. I have slept through the whole day and far into another night. Isn't it possible that anything has happened to the sun? This is 12 at noon! The idea was an alarming one. He scrambled out of bed and groped his way to the window. He was obliged to rub the frost off the sleeve of his dressing gown before he could see anything. And he could see very little then. All he could make out was that it was still very foggy and still extremely cold. That there was no noise of people running to and fro and making a great stir, as there unquestionably would have been if the night had beaten off the bright day and taken possession of the world. This was a great relief, because 3 days after the first exchange... Wait, what? 3 days after sight of this first exchange paid to Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge or his order, and so forth, would have become mere United States security if there were no days to count by. Scrooge went to bed again and thought it over and over and over, and could make nothing of it. The more he thought, the more perplexed he was, and the more he endeavored not to think, the more he thought. To stop thinking! All his goals bothered him exceedingly. Every time he resolved within himself, after maturing clearly, that it was all a dream. His mind flew back again, like a strong spring release, to his first position, and presented the same problem to be worked all through. Was it a dream or not? Scrooge lay to this state until the chime had gone 3 quarters more, and when he remembered, on a sudden, that the ghost had warned him of a visitation when the bell tolled 1, he resolved to lie awake until the hours passed. Considering that he could no more sleep than go to heaven, this was perhaps the wisest solution in his power. The quarter was so long. He was more than once convinced he must have snuck into those unconsciously and missed the clock. At length, it broke upon his listening ear. Ding dong! A quarter passed, said Scrooge, counting. Ding dong! Half past, said Scrooge. Ding dong! A quarter to it, said Scrooge. Ding dong! Wow! The hour itself, said Scrooge triumphantly, and nothing else! He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which is now did with a deep, dull, melancholy 1. Light flashed up in the room upon an instant, and curtains of his bed were drawn. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside, I tell you, by a hand, not the curtains at his feet, nor the curtains at his back, but those who which face was addressed. Curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge, staring up to a half-recumbent attitude, found himself face to face with an unearthly visitor who drew them, as close as it is as I am now to you, and I am standing in the spirit at your elbow. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man viewed through some supernatural medium, which gave him fears of having receded from the view and having diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, yet the face had not a wrinkle in it, and the tenderest bloom was on its skin. The arms were very long and muscular, the hands of the same, as if were to hold on common strength. Its legs and feet most delicately formed, but like those upper members, bare, wore a tunic of the purest white, and round its waist bound a lustrous belt, its sheen which was beautiful. It held a branch of fresh green and holly in its hand, a singular contradiction of that wintry emblem, as it is trimmed with summer flowers. But the strangest thing about it was, the crown from his head there sprung a clear jet of light, which by all of this was visible, which was doubtless on the occasion of his using his dollar moments. My word, I'm getting tongue-tied. The great extinguisher for a cap, which was now held under its arm. Even though when Scrooge looked at it with increasing steadiness, was not the strangest quality, for its belt sparkled and glittered, now in one part and now in another. What was I? And what was light in an instant, another time was dark. For the figure itself fluctuated in its distinctness, being now a thing with one arm, and now with one leg, now with 20 legs, now a pair of legs. Without the head, now a head without a body, of with dissolving. This is a fucking biblical angel. With no outline would be visible in the dense gloom wherein they melted away. In every wonder of this, it would be itself again, distinct and clear as ever. Are you the spirit whose coming foretold to me? Asked Scrooge. Okay, soft and gentle. I am. Soft and gentle. The voice was soft and gentle, singularly low, as if instead of being so close beside him, it were at the distance. Who and what are you? Scrooge demanded. I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? Inquired Scrooge, observant of his dwarfish stature. No, your past. Perhaps Scrooge couldn't have told anybody why, if anyone could have asked him, but he had the desire to see the spirit in his cap and beg him to be covered. What? Wait, no, it's a ghost. What? Exclaimed the ghost. Will you soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passions made this cap, forced me through whole trains of years and wear it upon my brow? Scrooge reverently disclaimed all the intention to offend or any knowledge of will have been bonneted the spirit at any period of its life. He then made bold to inquire what business brought him there. Your welfare. Scrooge expressed himself much obliged, but couldn't help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end. The spirit must have been thinking, as far as said immediately. A reclamation, then. Take heed. It put out its strong hand as he spoke, clasped him gently by the arm. Rise and walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted for pedestrian purposes. The bed was warm, the thermometer a long way before freezing, that he had clad but lightly in his slippers, dressing gown and nightcap, and that he had a cold upon him at the time. The grasp, through gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose. But finding the spirit made towards the window, he clasped his throne in supplication. I am a mortal! Scrooge remonstrated. Hesitate, okay. I am liable to fall. Bear but a touch of my hand there. said the Spirit laying upon his heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this. As such words were spoken, they passed through the wall, and stood upon an open country road, and took him home to the place where he belonged. Okay, I'll read the proper sentence. And stood upon an open country road, with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished. Not a vestige of it was to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was clear, cold, and winter day, with snow upon the ground. Good heaven! Said Scrooge, clasping hands together as he looked about him. I was bred in this place! I was a boy here! The Spirit gazed upon him madly. His gentle touch, though it had been light and instantaneous, appeared still present to the old man's sense of feeling. He was conscious of 1,000 odors floating in air, each one connected with 1,000 thoughts, hopes, joys, and cares long forgotten. Your lip is trembling, said the ghost. What is that upon your cheek? Scrooge muttered with unusual catching in his voice. There was a pimple. The ghost begged, and begged the ghost to lead him where he would. You recollect the way? Inquired the Spirit. I remember it, cried Scrooge with fervor. I could walk with it blindfold. Strange to have forgotten it for so many years, observed the ghost. Let us go on. They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until the little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge and its church, its winding river. Some shaggy ponies were now seen trotting towards them, with boys upon their backs, who called the other boys to their country gigs and carts, driven by farmers. All these boys were in great spirit. They shouted to each other until the board fields were so full of merry music that the crisp air laughed to hear it. These are but shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. They have no consciousness of us. The jocund travels came on. As they came, Scrooge knew and named them every one. Why, he was rejoiced beyond all bounds to see them. Why did his cold eye glisten? His heart leapt out as they were from the past. Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them give each other Merry Christmas as they parted across road and byways? Were there several homes? What was Merry Christmas to Scrooge? One Merry Christmas? What good has it ever done to him? The school was not quite deserted, said the ghost. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still. Scrooge said he knew it, and he sobbed. They left the high road by a well-remembered lane, and soon approached a mansion of dull red brick, with a little weathercock surmounted cupola on the roof, and a bell hanging in it. It was a large house, but one of broken fortunes. For the spacious offices were little used. The walls were damp and mossy, the windows broken, and their gates decayed. Fowls clucked and strutted in the stables, and in the coach houses and sheds were overrun with grass. Nor it was more retentive of its ancient state within, for entering the dreary hall, and glancing through the open doors of many rooms, they found them poorly furnished, cold and vast. There was an earthly savor in the air, a chilling bareness in the place, which associated itself somehow with too much of getting up with a candlelight and not too much to eat. Where the hell am I? Wait, let me drink a bit of what? Let me drink now. Okay. Okay. They went, the ghost and Scrooge, across the hall, to a door at the back of the house. It opened before them, and disclosed a long, bare, melancholy room, made barer by the lines of plain deal forms and desks. One of these, a lonely boy, was reading near a feeble fire, and Scrooge sat down upon a form, and wept to see his poor forgotten self as he used to be. Not a latent echo in the house, not a squeak and scuffle from the mice behind the paneling, not a drip from the half-thawed water spout in the dull yard behind, not a sigh among the leafless and boughs of one despondent, popular, not the idle swing of an empty storehouse door. No, not a clicking in the fire, but fell upon the heart of Scrooge with a softening influence, and gave a freer passage in tears. The Spirit clutched him in the arm, and pointed to his younger self, intent upon his reading. Suddenly, a man in foreign garments, wonderfully real and distinct to look at, stood outside by the window with an axe stuck on his belt, leading by a bridle and an ass laden with wood. "Why, it's Alibaba!" Wait, it's Fox. "Why, it's Alibaba!" Scrooge exclaimed in ecstasy. "My dear old friend Alibaba! Yes, yes, I know! One Christmas time when yonder solitary child was left there all alone, he did come for the first time, and just like that, poor boy, and Valentine," said Scrooge, "and his wild brother Orson. There they go. What was his name? Who put down his drawers at the sleep at the gate of Damascus? You don't see him." And the Sultan's groom turned upside down by the guinea. "I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing everything. There he is upon his head. Serves him right. I'm glad of it. What business had he to be married to the princess?" Here Scrooge expending all his earnestness of his nature on such subjects, the most extraordinary voice between laughing and crying, and to see his heightened excited face, I would be surprised this business went in the city, indeed. "There's the parrot!" cried Scrooge. "Green body and yellow tail, with a thing like a lettuce growing up from the top of his head. There he is! Poor Robin Crusoe," he called him. Wait, is he still talking? Oh, he's still talking. "When he came home again after sailing around the island. Poor Robin Crusoe, where have you been, Robin Crusoe?" Crusoe? Oh, if I'm pronouncing it right. The man thought he was dreaming, but he wasn't. It was Parrot, you know. There goes Friday, running for his life with a little creak. Hola hop hello. What did I just... What did I just read? That was a sad sentence. Then, with a rapidly of transition to a foreign... very foreign to his unusual character, he said pity of his former self, "Poor boy," and cried again. "I wish," Scrooge muttered, putting his hand in his pocket, looking about him with drying eyes after his cough. "But it's too late now." "What's the matter?" asked the spirit. "Nothing," said Scrooge. "Nothing. There was a boy singing Christmas carol at my door last night. I would have given him something, that's all." The ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved his hand, saying as it did so, "Let us see another Christmas." Scrooge's former self grew large in the words. The room became light, little dark and more dirty. The panels shrunk, the windows cracked. The fragments of plaster fell out the ceiling. The naked lamps were shown out instead. Shown out instead. But how was this all brought out? Scrooge knew more nothing than you do. He only knew that was quite correct. Everything happened so, that there he was, alone again, where the other boys had gone home for the jolly holidays. He was not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. Scrooge looked at the ghost, with a mournful shaking of his head, glanced anxiously towards the door. It opened. A little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in, putting her arms around his neck, often kisses him, and addressed him as her dear brother. Oh, it's child. "I have come to bring you home, dear brother," said the child, clapping her tiny hands and bending down to laugh. "To bring you home, home, home." "Home, little fan?" returned the boy. "Yes," said the child, brimful of glee. "Home for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be, that home is like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was coming to bed, that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, 'Yes, you should,' and sent me in a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" said the child, opening her eyes. "And are never going to come back here, but first, we're going to be together all the Christmas long. We have the merriest time in the world." "You're a quiet woman, little fan," exclaimed the boy. She clasped her hands and he laughed. She tried to touch his head, but being too little, laughed again, and stood tiptoe to embrace him. Then she began to drag him in her childish eagerness towards the door, and he, nothing loth to go, accompanied her. A terrible voice in the hall cried, "Bring down Mrs. Scrooge's box, there!" In the hall appeared the schoolmaster himself, who glared on Master Scrooge with ferocious condescension, and threw to a dreadful state of mind by shaking hands with him. He then conveyed his sister to the deep, various old well of the shivering best parlor that ever was seen, where the maps upon the wall, celestial terrestrial globes on the windows, were there waxing with cold. Here, he produced a decanter of curiously light wine and a block of curiously heavy cake, and administered the installments of dainties of the young people at the same time, sending out a merge servant to offer a glass of something to the postboy, who answered that he thanked the gentleman, but it was not the same tap as tested before. He rather not. Master Scrooge trunk began this time, tied on the old top of the case. I don't know how to pronounce that. The children bade the schoolmaster good night, a goodbye right willingly, and getting to it, drove gaily. Is that the right word? Is that how to pronounce it? Gaily, down to the garden sweep. The quick wheels dashing the hoar frost and snow from the dark leaves of evergreens like spray. This is always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered, said the ghost. But she had a large heart. So she had, cried Scrooge. You're right. I will not gainsay it, spirit. God forbid. She died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children? One child, Scrooge returned. True, said the ghost. Your nephew? Ay, oo nga, brother. The girl said to say brother. Scrooge seemed uneasy in his mind, and answered briefly, yes. Although they had but a moment to leave school behind them, they were now busy thoroughfares of the city, where shadowy passengers passed and repassed, where shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way, and all the strife and turmoil of the real city were. It was made plain enough by dressing of the shops that here too was Christmas time again, but it was evening and streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. I knew it! I apprenticed there! Wait, let me drink water again. My throat will be drying whenever I say this story time, but I don't... I don't mind it. I kinda like doing these monthly story times. It's nice to like read stories. Nice. I know it. Was I apprentice there? They went in. Sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig, sitting behind such a high desk that if he had been 2 inches taller, would have been knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried with great excitement. Why, it's old Fezziwig! Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again! Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up upon his clock, which pointed the hour of 7. Tama? He rubbed his hands and adjusted his capacious waistcoat and laughed all over himself, from his shoes to his organ of benevolence, called out a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, and jovial voice. Yo ho there, Ebenezer Dick. What? Ebenezer Dick? Scrooge's former self, did I just say that right? Scrooge's former self, now grown young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice. Dick Wilkins, to be sure. Ay, bobo, si Scrooge pala to. Dick Wilkins, to be sure, said Scrooge to the ghost. Bless me, yes. There he is. He is very much attached to me. Was Dick. Poor Dick, my dear. Yo-ho, my boys, said Fezziwig. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve. Dick, Christmas. Ebenezer. Let's have us shutters up, cried old Fezziwig, with a sharp clap of his hands. Before a man can say Jack Robinson. Fuck, Mark. You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. They charged the street with shutters 1, 2, 3, and had up their places 4, 5, 6. Fired them and pinned them 7, 8, 9, and came up before he got to 12, panting like race horses. Hilly-ho! Hilly-ho! Sounds like a cowboy. Hilly-ho! Cried old Fezziwig, skipping down from the high desk with wonderful agility. Clear the way, my lads, and let's have some room here. Wait! This is the guy. Clear the way, my lads. Let's have some room here. Hilly-ho, Dick. Chip. Ebenezer. Clear the way. There was nothing could have cleared away, with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off, as if were dismissed from the public life from evermore. The floor was swept and watered. The lamps were trimmed, fuel and heaped upon the fire. The warehouse was as snug and warm and dry, and bright as a ballroom, as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. Wait, let me just fix this. Okay. Came a fiddler with a music book and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra on it. Turned like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. It came the 6 followers whose hearts they broke. Wow! In came all the men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. The milkman! Oh no! It came the boy from over the way who was suspected for having bored enough from his master, trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door but one, who was proved to have her ears pulled by her mistress. In they all came, one after the other, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In all they came, anyhow and everyhow. Away all they went. 20 couple at once, half around and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round various stages of infection grouping. Old top couple always turning up in the wrong place, new top couple starting again. As soon they were there, old top couples last, and not a bottom one to help them. When this result was brought out, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" And the fiddler bunched his hot fist of porter, especially provided for that purpose, was scorning rest upon his reappearance. He instantly began again, though there were no dancers yet, as if the other fiddle had been carried before, exhausted, on the shutter, where the brand new man resolved to beat him outside or perish. There were more dances, there were more forfeits, and more dances, and then there was cake. There was negus, and there was a piece. Hello, Nepo, welcome. We're reading a Christmas Carol. Welcome. Sit tight and stay comfortably, and probably drink your favorite food while you're just listening in. Where was I? Piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there were 12 mince pies and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after roast and boiled, when Fiddler struck him up. Fiddler struck him up. Sir Roger de Coverley. And old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. Top couple too, with a good stiff 2-piece out work cut off for them. 2, 3 or 4 and 20 pair of partners who were not be able to be trifled with. People who would dance had no notion of walking. Also became center of the dance floor. Oh. Okay, that was the center of the dance floor. Got it. But if they had been 4 times, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them. And so would Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that is not high praise, tell me higher and I'll use it. A positive light appeared issued from Fezziwig's calves. They shone in every part of the dance like moons. You could have predicted at any given time what would have become of the next. And when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig have gone through all the dance, advance and retire, both hassle your partner, bow, curtsy, corkscrew, thread the needle, and back again to your place. Fezziwig cut so deftly that he appeared to wink with his legs and came upon his feet without a stagger. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took to their stations, one on either side of the door, shaking their hands with every passion. Individually as he or she went out, and wished him or her Merry Christmas. And everyone had retired but 2 apprentices, they did the same to them. And thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left into their beds, which they were under the counter by a back shop. My God. During the whole time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene and with his former self. He cooperated with everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright face of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost. He became conscious of its looking full upon him, with the light on his head burned very clear. "A small matter," said the ghost, "make these silly folks full of gratitude." "Small? echoed Scrooge. The spirit signed at him to listen to two apprentices, who were pouring their hearts out in praise of Fezzik. When he had done so, he said, "Why? Is it not you spent a few pounds of your mortal... Wait, what? Oh, it is a ghost. Why? Is it not? You have spent a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that much to deserve this praise?" "It isn't that," said Scrooge, heated by the remark, speaking unconsciously to the former, not his latter self. "It isn't that spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, in things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness you give is quite great as if it cost a fortune." He felt the spirit's glance and stopped. "What is the matter?" asked the ghost. "Nothing particular," said Scrooge. "Something, I think?" the ghost insisted. "No," said Scrooge. "No, I should be able to say a word or two with my clerk now. Just now, that's all." His former self turned down the lamps and gave utterance to the wish. Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in quick and open air. "My time grew short," observed the spirit. "Quick!" This was not addressed to Scrooge, or anyone whom he could see, but produced an immediate effect, for again Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, a man prime in his life. His face had not the harsh and the rigid lines of later years, but it began to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye. It showed passion that had taken root where the shadow of the growing tree would fall. He was not alone. Sat by side of a fair girl mourning in dress, whose eyes were tears, which sparkled the light that shone out of the growth of the Christmas past. "It matters little," he said softly. "To you, a very little. Another idol has displaced me. And if it can cheer and comfort you when time comes, as I tried to do, I have no just to cause grief." "What idol has displaced you?" he rejoined. "A golden one." "Okay, I see. This is an even-handed dealing of the world," he said. "There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty. There is nothing which professes to condemn such severity in the pursuit of wealth." "You fear the world too much," he answered. Gently. "All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until master passion, gain, engrosses you, have I not?" "What then?" he retorted. "Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I have not changed towards you." She shook her head. "Am I?" "Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so. It's a good reason. We could improve our worldly fortune and our patient industry. You are changed. When it's made, you are another man." "I was a boy." "Your own feeling tells you you are not what you are." Wait, fuck, mali. Oh my god! Did I just... Oh god! I voice acted the wrong dialogues all through and through. Oh god. "I was a boy," he said impatiently. "Your own feeling tells you you were not what you are," she returned. "I am. The wish promised happiness when we were one in heart. In fraught with misery, now we are two. How often and how keenly have thought of this. I will not say it is enough that I have thought about it, and can release you. Have I ever thought of a release? In words? No, never. In what then? In changed nature, in altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope at its great end, in everything that made my love of any work or value in your sight. If this has never been between us," said the girl, looking mildly with steadiness upon him, "tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now?" No." He seemed to yield to justice in his supposition. In spite of himself, he said with struggle, "You think not. Let me drink again." "I would gladly think otherwise if I could," she answered. "Heaven knows, when I have learned the truth like this, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday. Can I even believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? You, who are very confident with her, weigh everything by gain, or choosing her for a moment you were false enough to guide your one guiding principle to do so. And do I not know that your repentance and regret will surely follow? I do. I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were. Ahem, ahem, ahem. Ahem, ahem, ahem. He was about to speak, but with her head turned from him, she resumed. You may, a memory of what is past half, makes me hope you will have this pain and this. A very, very brief time, you will dismiss the recollection of it, gladly, as an unprofitable dream, from which you happened whilst you awoke. You'll be happy in the life you have chosen. He left him, they parted. Spirit! Show me no more, said Scrooge. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me? One shadow more, exclaimed the ghost. No more! cried Scrooge. No more! I don't wish to see it! Show me no more! But the relentless ghost pinioned him with both of his arms and forced to observe what happened next. They were in another scene and place, in a room not very large or handsome, but a room full of comfort. Near the winter fire sat a beautiful young girl, but the last that Scrooge believed that was the same until he saw her, now a comely matron, sitting opposite her daughter. The noise in this room was perfectly tumultuous. There were more children there than Scrooge in his agitated state of mind could count. Unlike the celebrated heard in old poem, there were not 40 children conducting themselves as one, but every child would conduct himself like 40. The consequences of ferocious, beyond belief, but no one seemed to care. On the contrary, the mother and daughter laughed heartily and enjoyed it very much, and the latter soon began to mingle with sports, got pillaged with the young brigands most ruthlessly. Why, I would have not even been to one of them. I would never have been so rude. No, I wouldn't for the wealth all the world would have crushed that braided hair and tore it down, for the precious little shoe. I would have not plucked it off. God bless my soul to save my life. As to measuring her waist in sport as they did, bold young brood, I could have done it. I should have expected my arm grown around from punishment. I should have wait, what? And never come straight again. And I should have dearly liked, I own, to have touched her lips, to have questioned her, and she might open them, to look upon the lash of her downcast eyes, and never miss a blush, to have let loose waves of hair, in an inch would have been a keepsake beyond price. In short, I should have liked, I do confess, to have had the lightest license of a child, and yet had between mana from his value. But now, a knocking on the door was heard, and such a rush immediately ensued that she, with a laughing face, plundered dress and borne towards it to the center flush in a boisterous group, just in time to greet the father, who came home attended by mad laden with Christmas noise and parents, then shouting and struggling, and the onslaught that was made on the defenseless porter, the scaling him with chairs for ladders drive into his pockets, despoil him of brown paper parcels, hold on tight with his cravat, hug him around his neck, pommel his back, kick his legs in irrepressible affection, the shouts of wonder and delight with which the development of every package was received, the terrible announcement that the baby had been taken in the act of putting a doll's frying pan to his mouth. It was more than suspected of a swallow-fictitious turkey, glued in a wooden platter. Wooden platter? The immense relief of finding this false alarm, the joy, the gratitude, the ecstasy, they were all indescribable alike. It is though by the degrees of children that emotions got out of parlor, by one stare at a time, up to the top of the house, where they went to bed and so subsided. Now, Scrooge looked more attentively than ever, and the master of the house, having daughter leaning fondly on him, sat down with her and her mother at his own fireside, and he thought that such another creature, quite as grateful as he of promise, might have called him father, and in the springtime of the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed. Well, said the husband, turning his wife in a smile, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon. Who is it? Yes. How can I? thought. I don't know. She added the same breath, laughing as she laughed. Mr. Scrooge? Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window, and it was not shut up, and he had his candle inside. I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear, and there he sat alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe. Spirit! Said Scrooge in a broken voice. Remove me from this place! I told you those were shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. They are what they are, don't blame me for it. Remove me! Scrooge exclaimed. I cannot bear it! He turned upon the ghost, and seeing that it looked upon him with a face, in which some strange way there were fragments of all the face had shown him, wrestled with him. Leave me back! Take me back! Haunt me no longer! In a struggle, as if it could be called a struggle, which the ghost, with no visible resistance on his own part, was left undisturbed by any effort of his adversary. Scrooge observed the sight was burning high and bright, dimly connected with his influence over him. He seized the extinguisher cap and slowly pressed the action down upon its head. The spirit dropped beneath it, so the extinguisher covered its whole form. But though Scrooge pressed down all his own force, he could not hide the light, which steamed under it, and in an unbroken flood upon the ground. He was conscious of being exhausted. He overcome an irresistible drowsiness, and further in his own bedroom, he gave the cap a parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed, and barely had time to reel to bed before sinking into a heavy sleep. That's the end of chapter of the second spirit. Oh, that's the end of the second spirit. Nice. I checked the third spirit ahead. Oh my gosh, that's really long. The second spirit for the second spirit is longer than the first one. Let me go to the chapter page. Where is it? The second of the three spirits. There. Now, how's everyone going after I wrap up the chapter? How is it? I hope everyone's doing well. I'll have another drink. Oh, that feels nice on the throat though. Especially I've been reading a lot. Present is going to give it to him. Hell yeah, that's why it's called present. I don't think you should talk. If I'm basing it from the movie, I'm just basing it from what I remember from the movie. I don't think the future talked at all. But oh yeah, I remember the movie. I think I really like the present. I really like the present and its effects. It was really nice. Like it was such a fun visual treat. That's what I can say. It's a really fun visual treat though. The present was actually cool. Present was the coolest. You can't deny that. The present ghost was the coolest one. In my honest opinion. Made the transition. Yes! The transition was super horrifying, to say the damn least. But oh my god, it was beautiful though. It was beautiful. Like the visuals, everything. It was so beautiful though. That's why I like present. But since the present chapter, the second ghost chapter is a bit long, I might start ASAP as soon as possible. Yeah, I'll start a bit quickly after this. Let's see. It's surprising. Yeah, it's rated 6 out of 10. The movie is sad. It's a great movie. Maybe because it's a bit dark for a Disney film, but it was nice. But that was the beauty of it. Saw it randomly sneaking in theaters with a friend. You snuck in a theater. What? I think I saw mine on the trailer, then I wanted to watch it because again, I watched Barbie first, then anything else. So my actual thought on it was, my actual impression of the Christmas Carol is from Barbie. So yeah, that's where I base it on. But I'm impressed with the movie version. I like the movie version too. The story has been taking so much of my throat. Nice. I don't remember what movie I last watched. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I watched a movie at theaters. But I don't think I'll be watching one anytime soon because nothing's been interesting for me so far. Nothing yet. But I think I really remember watching Coco on screen on the movie. I remember that. Anyway, we'll be going back to Chapter 3, the second of the three spirits. This is, we're already halfway. Yeah, we're like, no. Wait. Yeah, we're like halfway through the novel already. Oh, the middle mark is the second spirit. Okay. Chapter 3, the second of the three spirits. Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in the bed to get his shower thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again the stroke of one. He felt that he was restored consciously right in the nick of time for the special purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger dispatched him to Jacob Marley's intervention. But finding that he turned uncomfortably cold, he began to wonder which of his curtains this new spectre would draw back. He put every one of them with his own hands, lying down again, established a sharp look all around the bed, for he wished to challenge the spirit in the moment of his appearance, and did not want to be taken by surprise, and made nervous. Gentlemen of free and easy sort, who plumbed themselves of being acquainted with a move or two, being usually equal time of day, express a wide range of their capacity for adventure, by observing that they are good for anything, from pitch toss to manslaughter. Why is that a thing? Between which of opposite extremes? With no doubt, there lies a thoroughly wide comprehensive range of subjects. Without venturing for Scrooge, quite hardly this, I don't mind calling you believe what he was ready to be good, to be broad field of strange appearances. That nothing between baby rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and consequently, when the bell struck one, and no shape appeared, was taken by a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, was taken... What? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time, he lay upon his bed, from the very core and the center blaze of the ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, and which, being only light, was more alarming than dozen lights. He was powerless to make out what it meant, or would be at, and was sometimes apprehensive that he might be at the very moment interesting case of spontaneous combustion, without the consolation of knowing it. At last, however, he began to talk, as you or I would have thought at first, for it was always a person not in the predicament who knows what ought to have done with it, and would unquestionably have done it so. At last, I say, he began to think the source and secret of this ghostly light might have been the adjoining room, from whence, on further tracing it, it seemed to shine. This idea taking full possession of his mind. He got up softly and shuffled slippers onto the door. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the lock, a strange voice called out him by name, and bade him to enter. He obeyed. It was his own room, there was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were hung with living green. It looked like a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened. The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected backlight, as if many little mirrors. God, I only imagine the movie had been scattered there, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney that the dull petrification of a hearth had never known in Scrooge's time or Marley's. From many a winter season gone, heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne, were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great choice of meat, sucking pigs, long reach of sausages. Nagugutom ako! Tuloy, with these awful descriptions. Plum puddings, piles of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, cherry-picked apples, juicy oranges,
luscious pears, immense stuffed cakes, and seething balls of punch that made chamber dim with their delicious steam. An easy seat upon this couch. There sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore up a glowing torch, shaped unlike Plenty's horn, held it high up, and shed light on Scrooge as he came peeping through the door. "Come in!" exclaimed the ghost. "Come in! Know me better, man!" Scrooge entered timidly and hung his head before the spirit. He was not the Dodge Scrooge he had been, and though the spirit's eyes were clear and kind, he did not like to meet them. "I am the ghost of Christmas present," said the spirit. "Look upon me." Scrooge reverently did so. It clothed with one simple green robe or mantle, bordered with white fur. This garment hung so loosely on the figure, his precious breasts were bare, as if disdaining to be worn or concealed with any artifice. Its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of the garment, were also bare, and on its head it wore no other than covering than the holy wreath, set there and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free of his genial face, his sparkling eye, and its open hand, its cheery voice, his unconstrained manner, his joyful air. Girded round its middle was an antique scabbard, but no sword was in it. An ancient sheet eaten up with rust. Yeah, Christmas present is my freaking favorite. It's my favorite. You have never seen like me before. Never. Which made the answer it. I have never walked for the younger members of my family, meaning my elder brothers born in these later years, pursued the phantom. I don't think I have, said Scrooge. I am afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit? More than 1,800, said the ghost. The dangerous family to provide for, muttered Scrooge. The ghost of Christmas present rose. Spirit, said Scrooge submissively, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learned a lesson which working now. Tonight, if you ought to teach me, let me profit by it. By it. Touch my robe. Scrooge did as he was told and held fast. Holly, mistletoe, red berries, ivies, turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, meat, pigs, sausages, oysters, pies, puddings, fruit, and punch all vanished instantly. So did the room, the fire, its ruddy glow, the hour of the night, and they stood the city streets on the Christmas morning, where the people made a rough but brisk, unpleasant kind of music, scraping in the snow from the pavement in front of their dwellings, from the tops of their houses, whence it was mad delight to the boys to see plumping down to the road below, and at the artificial snowstorms. The house fronts looked black enough, and the windows blacker, contrasting with the smooth white sheet upon the roofs, with which the dirtier snow upon the ground, which last deposit had been plowed up in the deep furrows by the heavy wheels of carts and wagons, furrows that crossed and recrossed each other hundreds of times, where the great streets branched off, with intricate channels, hard to trace into the thick yellow mud and icy water. The sky was gloomy, and the shortest streets were choked up with a dingy mist, half thawed, half frozen, whose heavier particles descended in a shower of sooty atoms, as if all the chimneys in Britain had, by one consent, caught fire, and were blazing away to their dear heart's content. There was nothing very cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad that the clearest summer air and the brightest summer sun may have endeavored in diffuse in vain. Oh god, this is a long paragraph. Wait, let me just... Okay, it's a long paragraph. Wait, let me just... fix this paragraph. Okay. For the people who were shoveling away under the house were jovial and full of glee, calling out to one another from the parapets, and now then exchanging the facetious snowball, better-natured missile far than a worldly jest, laughing heartily if it went right and not less heartily if it went wrong. The poulterers' hopes were still half open, and the fruitiers were radiant in their glory. They were great, round, pot-bellied baskets of chestnuts, shaped like the waistcoats of jolly old gentlemen, lounging at the doors, tumbling out on the street in their apoplectic opulence. They were ruddy, brown-faced, broad-girt Spanish onions, shining with the fatness of their growth like Spanish friars, and winking from their shelves in wanton slyness at the girls as they went by, and glanced demurely at the hung-up mistletoe. They were pears and apples, clustered high in blooming pyramids. There were bunches of grapes made in shopkeepers' benevolence to dangle in conspicuous hooks that people's mouths might water in grace as they passed. There were piles of filberts, mossy and brown, recalling in their fragrance ancient walks along the woods, and pleasant shufflings ankle-deep through withered leaves, and there were not gnarled griffins, squat and swarthy, sitting off the yellow and oranges and lemons, and the great compactness of their juicy persons, urgently entering and beseeching to be carried home in paper bags and eaten after dinner. The very gold and silver fish set forth among those choice fruits in a bowl, true members of a dull and stagnant blood race, appeared to know what was something going on, and to a fish went gasping around the little world to show their passionless excitement. Let me drink again, wait, let me drink again. Wait a minute. The grocers! Grocers? Oh, the grocers! Nearly closed. Perhaps 2 shutters down or 1, but through those gaps, such glimpses. It was not alone that the scales of descending on the counter made a merry sound, or the twine and the roller parted company so briskly, or that the canisters were rattled up and down like jingling tricks, or even that the blended scents of tea and coffee were so grateful to the nose, or even that the raisins were so plentiful and rare. The almonds are so extremely white, the sticks of cinnamon are so long and straight, the other spices so delicious, the candied fruits so caked and spotted with molten sugar as to make the coldest onlookers feel faint and subsequently bilious. Nor was the figs were moist and plumpy, or the fresh plums brushed with a modest tartness from their highly decorated boxes, or that everything was good and in its Christmas dress, but the customers were also hurried, also eager, in its hopeful promise of the day, that they tumbled up against each other at the door, cashing their wicker baskets widely, and left their purchase upon the counter, and came running back to fetch them, and committed hundreds of like mistakes, in the best humor possible. All the grocer and his people were so frank and fresh that the polished hearts with which they have fastened their aprons behind might have been their own, worn outside for general inspection, for Christmas dolls to peck as if they choose. But soon as the steepless, as good people call, to church and chapel, and away they came, walking through the streets in their best clothes, and with their gayest faces, and at the same time, there emerged from the scores of by-streets and nameless turnings, innumerable people carrying their dinners into bakers and shops. The sight of these poor revelers appeared to interest the spirit very much, for he stood with Scrooge beside him in the baker's doorway, taking off the covers as the bearers passed, sprinkled incense on their dinners and from his torch, and it was a very uncommon kind of torch, for once and twice there was an angry word between some dinner carriers who jostled each other and shed few drops of water from it, and then their good humor was restored directly, for they said it was shame to quarrel about Christmas Day, so it was. God love it, so it was. Okay, next paragraph. In time bell ceased, the bakers were shut up, and there was genial shadowing forth on all these dinners, and the progress of their cooking, which told blotch of wet each baker's oven, which paved smoke as if the stones were cooking too. Is there particular flavor in what you sprinkle from your torch? Asked Scrooge. There is, my own. Would it apply to any kind of dinner to this day? Asked Scrooge. To any given? The poor one most. Why to the poor one most? Asked Scrooge. Because it needs it most. Spirit, said Scrooge, after a moment's thought, I wonder you, of all beings on the many worlds about us, should desire cramp these people opportunities of instant enjoyment. Aye, cried the spirit. You would deprive them of their means of dining on every 7th day? Often the only day in which they said to be dined at all, said Scrooge, wouldn't you? Aye, cried the spirit. You seek to close those spaces on the 7th day, said Scrooge, and it comes to the same thing. I seek, exclaimed the spirit. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It's been done in your name, or at least that of your family, said Scrooge. There are some upon this earth of yours, said the spirit, who lay claim to know us, who do their deeds with passion, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in my name, but who are as strange to us and all our kith and kin, as if they had never lived or lived. Remember that, and charge in their doings on themselves, not us. Scrooge promised that he would, and they went on, invisible as they went before, into the suburbs of town. It was the remarkable quality of the ghost that, notwithstanding his gigantic size, could accommodate himself to many places with ease, and that he stood beneath a low roof quite as gracefully like a supernatural creature as it was possible he could have done in any lofty hall. Perhaps this was a pleasure of the good spirit that had showing off this power of his, or else was his own kind, generous and hearty nature, and his sympathy with all poor men that led him straight to Scrooge clerks, for there he went, and took Scrooge with him, holding to his robe, and on the threshold of the door, Spirit smiled, and stopped to the blessed Bob Cratchit's dwelling with sprinkling of his torch. Think of that! Bob had put 15 bob a week himself and pocketed on Saturdays, but 15 copies of his Christian name, yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-room house. Then upon rose Mrs. Cratchit's wife, dressed up all but poorly in a twice-turning gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap and make a goodly show for the sixpence, and she laid cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, and getting the corners of his monstrous shirt collar into his mouth, rejoiced to find himself so gallantly attired, and yearned to show his linen in the fashionable parks. And now the two smaller Cratchits, a boy and a girl, who came tearing in, screaming down outside the baker's, they smelt the goose. They had known it for their own, basking in luxurious sauce of sage and onion. These young Cratchits danced around the table, exalted Master Peter Cratchit to the skies, while he blew the fire until the slow potatoes bubbling up knocked down loudly the saucepan lid and let out and peeled. Wait, let me drink again. It's a dialogue. Wait, let me drink.
What has ever got to your father then?
Said Mrs. Cratchit.
And your brother Tiny Tim? And Martha wasn't late last Christmas Day half an hour? Here's Martha, mother,
said the girl, peering as she spoke. Here's
Martha, mother,
cried the two young Cratchits.
Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha. Why, bless your heart alive, my dear. How late you are,
said Miss Cratchit, kissing her a dozen times and taking off her shawl and a bonnet of her seal. We had a deal of work to finish up last night, replied the girl, and had to clear away this morning, mother.
Well, never mind as long as you're calm, said Mrs. Cratchit. Sit down before the fire, my dear, and let's have a warm. Lord bless ye.
No, father. There's a father. Oh, wait, what? Oh, the dialogue. No, there's father coming, cried the two young Cratchits, who were everywhere once. Hide, Martha, hide! So Martha hid herself, and came little Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet comforter exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed, to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. Why, where's our Martha? Cried Bob Cratchit, looking around. Not coming,
said Mrs. Cratchit.
Not coming, said Bob with a sudden declension in high spirits, for he had been Tim's blood horse all the way from the church, and had come home rampant. Not coming about Christmas Day? Martha didn't like to seem disappointed, if it were only a joke, so she came up prematurely behind the closet door, and ran to his arms, while the two young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim, and bore him off into the wash house, that he may hear the pudding sing in the cropper.
And how did little Tiny Tim behave?
Asked Miss Cratchit, and she had rallied Bob on his credulity. Bob had hugged his daughter to his heart's content. As good as gold, said Bob, and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest thing you ever heard. He told me, coming home, he hoped people saw him in the church, because he was a cripple. It might be pleasant to them to remember on Christmas Day, who made the lame beggars walk and the blind men see. Bob's voice was tremulous when he told him this, and trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing strong and hearty. His active little crush was heard upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken. Escorted by his brother and sister, who stood before the fire, while Bob turned off his cuffs as if, poor fellow, they were capable of being more shabby, compounded from hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons, stirred it round and round, put it to a hub and simmer. Master Peter and the two ubiquitous young Kachits went to fetch goose, which were they soon returned in high procession. Such a bustle ensured that you might have thought the goose was the rarest of all birds, a feathered phenomenon, to which the black swan was a matter of course. In which the truth in it, there was something very like it in that house. Mrs. Kachit made the gravy, hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce. Martha dusted the plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him to the tiny corner of the table. The two young Kachits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting the guard upon their posts, crammed spoons into their mouths, lest they could shriek for a goose before the turn came to be helped. At last, the dishes were set on. The grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly all along the craving knife, prepared to plunge it in his breast. But when she did, and when the long-expected gush of suffering issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around the board. Even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the hand of the knife, and feebly cried hurrah. There was not such a goose. Bob said he didn't believe that ever such a goose was cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, and size and cheapness, the things were of universal admiration, eked out by the applesauce and mashed potatoes. It was a sufficient dinner for the whole family indeed. As Mrs. Cratchit said in great delight, they hadn't ate at all at last. And every one of them had enough. Even the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped out in sage and onions to the eyebrows. But now the plates are being changed by Mrs. Belinda. Mrs. Cratchit, left in the room alone, too nervous to bear witness, to take the pudding up and bring in. Suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose he should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have gone over the wall of the backyard and stolen it. But they were married with a goose. The superstition on which the young Cratchits became livid. All sorts of horror were abroad. Hello! A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of copper. A smell like a washing day. That was like a cloth. It smelled like an eating house and the pastries cooked next door to each other. The laundress next door to that. That was a pudding! In half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit entered flushed, but smiling proudly, with half the pudding, like a speckled cannon ball, so hard and film, blazing in half and a quarter of ignited brandy, and belighted with a Christmas holly stuck to the top. Oh, what a wonderful pudding! Bob Cratchit said, and calmly too, that he regarded as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since their marriage. Wow! Mrs. Cratchit said now that the weight was off her mind. She would confess that she had heard doubts of the quantity of the flour. Everyone had something to say about it, but nobody thought it was a small pudding for a large family. It would have been flat heresy to do so. Any Cratchit would have been blessed to hint such a thing. I blushed. At last, the dinner was all done. The cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, the fire made up. The compound and the jug were being tasted, and the considered perfect apples and oranges put on the table. A shovelful of chestnuts on the fire. Then, all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth, in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning a half one. And at Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of glass, 2 tumblers, and a custard cup without a handle. These held the hot stuff from the jug, however, as well as golden goblets would have done, and Bob served it with beaming looks, while chestnut on the fire sputtered and cracked noisily. Then Bob proposed, "Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us." Which all family re-echoed, "God bless us, everyone." Tiny Tim, said Tiny Tim last of all. He sat very close to his father, side upon his little stool. Bob held his withered little hand in his, as if he loved the child, wishing to keep him by his side, and dreaded that he might be taken from him. "Spirit," said Scrooge, with an interest he never felt before. "Tell me if Tiny Tim lived." "I see a vacant seat." "I see a vacant seat," replied the ghost. The poor chimney corner, a crutch without owner, carefully preserved. If the shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die. No, no, said Scrooge. Oh no, kind spirit, say he will be spared. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race, returned the ghost, will find him here. What then? If he will be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population. Oh shit! The ghost of the Christmas present said it to him. Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. Man, said the ghost, if a man you be in heart, not adamant, forbear that wicked can't until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what men shall live, what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven you're more worthless less to live than a million like this poor man's child. Oh God, prepare to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on a little too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust. Scrooge bit before the ghost's rebuke, trembling cast his eyes upon the ground, but he raised them speedily upon hearing his own name. Mr. Scrooge, said Bob, I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, founder of the feast. Founder of the feast indeed, cried Mrs. Cratchit, reddening. I wish I had it here. I give you a piece of my mind to feast upon. I hope you have good appetite for it. My dear, said Bob, children, it's Christmas Day. It should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, said she, on which one drinks and the health of such odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling one as Mr. Scrooge. You know how he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you do, poor fellow. My dear, was Bob's mild answer, Christmas Day. I drink his health for your sake and the day, said Miss Cratchit, not for his. Long life to him. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. He'll be merry and very happy, I have no doubt. The children drank the toast after her. It was the first of all proceedings with no heartiness. Harry drink it last of all, but he didn't care twopence of it. Scrooge was the old girl of the family. He didn't mention of his name as a dark shadow of the party, which was not dispelled for full 5 minutes. After it passed away, they were 10 times merrier than before. From the mere relief of Scrooge the baleful had been done with, Bob Cratchit told them how he had a situation in his eye for Master Peter, which would he bring in if obtained, a full 5 and 6 pence weekly. Two Cratchits laughed tremendously at the idea of Peter being a man of business, and Peter looked himself thoughtfully at the fire from between his collars, as if he were deliberating what particular investment he should favor when it came to the receipt of the bewildering income. Martha, who was a poor apprentice at the miller's, then told them what kind of work she had to do, and how many hours she had to work at stretch, and how she meant to lie abed tomorrow morning for a good long rest. Tomorrow being a holiday, she passed at home, and how she had seen Countess and the Lord some days before, and how the Lord was much about as tall as Peter, which Peter pulled up his collar so high that he could see his head if he had been there. All this time, the chestnuts in the jug went round and round, and by and by they had a song about the lost child traveling from the snow, from Tiny Tim, who had a plaintive little voice and sang very well indeed. There was nothing of high mark in this. They were not a handsome family, they were not well dressed. Their shoes were far being waterproof, their clothes were very scanty, and Peter might have known, but very likely he did, the inside of a pawnbroker. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time, and when they were faded, they looked happier in the bright sparklings of the spirit's torch of parting. Scrooge had his eye on them, especially on Tiny Tim by the last. Until the last. By the time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the spirit went along the streets, the brightness of the roaring fires in the kitchens, parlors, and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here, the flickering of blaze showered preparations for a cozy dinner, with hot flakes baking through and through before the fire, and deep red curtains ready to be drawn and shut out the cold and darkness. There, all the children of the house were running out on the snow to meet their merry sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, and be the first to greet them. Here again were the shadows of window blind of guests assembling, and their group of handsome girls, all hooded and fur boots, all chatting at once, tripped lightly off some neighbor's house, where woe upon a single man who saw them enter, artful of witches, and they knew it in glow. Okay, let's see. But if you judge the number of people with the family gatherings, you have thought no one was home to give them welcome when they got there. Then every house was expecting company and piling up fires half chimney high. Blessings on it, how the ghost exalted, how bared its breath of its breath, and opened its capacious palm and floating on, outpouring with a generous hand, its bright and harmless mirth on everything within its reach. The very lamplighter who ran on before, dotting the dusky street with specks of light, and who was dressed to spend the evening somewhere, laughed loudly as the spirit passed, though little keen on the lamplighter that he had company but Christmas. And now, without a word of warning from the ghost, he stood upon a bleak and desert moor, where monstrous masses of rude and stone were cast about, as though it were a place for giants. What the? The water spread itself wherever so it's listed. Or it would have done so, but the frost that held it prisoner, and nothing grew but frost and fruiture. The coarse rank grass, down in the west in the setting sun, had left a streak of fiery red, which glared upon the desolation of an instant like sullen eye, frowning lower, lower, and lower yet, was lost in a thick gloom of darkest night. "What is this?" asked Scrooge. "A place where miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth," returned the spirit. "But they know me, see?" A light shone from the window of the hut, and swiftly they advanced towards it. Passing the wall of mud and stone, they found a cheerful company assembled round a glowing fire, an old man and woman with their children and their children's children, another generation beyond that, all decked out gaily in their holiday attire. The old man, in a voice that seldom rose above the howling of the wind upon the barren waste, was singing them a Christmas song. It had been a very old song when he was a boy. From time to time, they all joined in the chorus. Surely they raised their voices. The old man quite built and loud, so surely they stopped and his vigor sank again. The spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge to hold his robe, and passing... Ano to? Oh no! I lost... Oh no! Oh dear, I lost the... Wait, let me just find the damn paragraph again. And the spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge to hold his robe, and passing above the moor, spread whither? Not to see? To see. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of land, a frightful range of rocks behind him. His ears were deafened by the thundering of water, as it rolled and roared, and raged among the dreadful caverns it warned, and fiercely tired, undermined the earth. But upon the dismal reef of sunken rocks, some league or so from shore, on which the waters chafed and dashed, the wild year through, and stood solitary lighthouse. The great heaps of seaweed clung to its base, and storm birds, where from the wind one might suppose, as seaweed of the water rose and fell for it, like the waves they have skimmed. But even here, two men watched the light had made a fire, that through a loophole in the thick stone wall shed out a ray of brightness on the awful sea, joining their horny hand. Did I read that fucking right? Yeah, it is! Joining their horny hands over the rough table at which they sat, they wish each other Merry Christmas in their can of grog. It's in the book! It's in the book! I'm not saying anything, it's in the book. I'm saying everything's in the book. Okay? I'm not saying anything. I'm saying everything in the book. And one of them, elder too, with his face all damaged and scarred with hard weather, as a figurehead of an old ship might be, stuck up the sturdy song that was like gale itself. Again, the ghost sped on, above the black and heaving sea, on and on, until being far away, as he told Scrooge, from any shore, they lighted on a ship, they stood beside the helmsman at the wheel, they looked at in the bow, the officers who had watched, dark, ghostly figures on their several stations, but every man among them hummed a Christmas tune, or had a Christmas thought, or spoke below his bed to his companion some bygone Christmas day, with some homeward hopes belonging to it, and every man of board, waking or sleeping, good or bad, had a kinder word on another on that day than on any day of the year, and had shared some extended festivities. He remembered those he cared for at a distance, that had it known they delighted to remember him. Let me drink again. Okay. It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while listening to the moaning of the wind and thinking what a solemnity was to move on through the lonely darks of over an unknown abyss, whose depths were secret as profound as death. It was a great surprise to Scrooge, and while thus engaged, to hear a hearty laugh, it was such a greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize his own nephew's end, finding himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room, his spirit standing smiling by his side, and looking at the same nephew with approving affability. Ha ha ha! Laughed Scrooge's nephew. Ha ha ha! If you would happen, by any unlikely chance, to know a man more blessed in a laugh than Scrooge's nephew, all I can say is, I should like to know him too. Introduce me to him and I'll cultivate his acquaintance. It is fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things, that while there is infection in disease and sorrow, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. When Scrooge's nephew laughed in his way, holding his sides, rolling his bed, twisting his face in most extravagant contortions, Scrooge's niece, by marriage, laughed as hard as he, and their assembled friends being not a bit behindhand, roared lustily. Ha 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 ha! He said that Christmas was a humbug, I live. Asked Scrooge's nephew. He believed in too. Why, shame on him, Fred, said Scrooge's niece indignantly. Bless those women, they never do anything by halves. They're always earnest. She was very pretty, exceedingly pretty, with dimpled, surprised-looking capital face, a ripe little mouth, was same made to be kissed as no doubt it was, with all kinds of good little dots about her chin, that melted into one another when she laughed, and the sunniest pair of eyes you have ever saw in any little creature's head. Altogether, she was what you have called provoking, you know, but satisfactory too. Oh, perfectly satisfactory.
He was a comical old fellow, said Scrooge's nephew. The truth and not so pleasant as he may be, however, his offenses carry their own punishment. I have nothing to say against him.
I am sure he's very rich, Fred, said Scrooge. At least you always tell me so.
What of that, my dear? Said Scrooge's nephew. His wealth is no use to him. He don't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He has that sad way of thinking, ha ha ha, that he's ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience with him, observed Scrooge's niece. Scrooge's niece sisters all over and all the other relatives express the same opinion.
Oh, I have,
said Scrooge's nephew.
I am sorry for him. I couldn't get angry at him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims himself, always. Here, he takes it to his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He don't lose much of dinner.
Indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner, interrupted Scrooge's niece. Everybody else said the same. They must be allowed to have been constant judges. Because they had just had dinner, and with the dessert upon the table, they were clustered around the fire by lamplight.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it,
said Scrooge's nephew, because I have had great faith in this young housekeepers.
What do you say, Topper?
Topper clearly had not his eye upon Scrooge's sisters, for he answered that the bachelor was a wretched outcast, who had no right to express opinion on the subject. Whereas Scrooge's niece's sister, the plump one with the lace tucker, not the one with the roses blush.
Do go on,
Fred, said Scrooge's niece, clapping her hands. He never finished but begins to say, he's such a ridiculous fellow. Scrooge's nephew reveled in another laugh, and as it was impossible to keep the infection off, though the plump sister tried hard to do it with aromatic vinegar, his example was unanimously followed. Okay, where was I? Okay, this one. And then we're back.
I was going to say,
said Scrooge's nephew,
that the consequence of him thinking to dislike us
and not making merry with us, as I think that he loses some pleasant memories which could turn him no harm. I'm sure he loses pleasant companions which could do him no harm, and which could own thoughts, either his moldy office or his dusty chambers. I meant to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not. For I pity him, may he rail at Christmas till it dies. But he can't help thinking better of it. I defy him. He finds me going in there, in good temper year after year. You're saying, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? If only puts in vain to leave his poor clerk 50 pounds. That's something, and I think I shook him yesterday. I'm pretty worried. No, it's fine. It just hurts a bit. It just hurts a bit, but I'm fine. Ah, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I'm so gonna fix this one. After tea, they had some music. They were a great musical family and knew what they were about when they sang Glee or Catch. I can assure you, Vesry Topper, who could growl away like a bass like a good one and never swell large veins in his forehead or get a raise over it. Scrooge knees play on the harp and played among other tunes a simple air, a mere nothing. You learned to whistle it in 2 minutes, which had been familiar to the child who fetched Scrooge from the boarding school, as he had been made the ghost of Christmas past. When this strain of music sounded, all the things that ghosts have shown him came upon his mind. He softened more and more, and thought that he would have visited often. Years ago, he might have cultivated this kind of his life for his own happiness, with his joy in his own hands, without resorting to the sexton spade that buried Jacob Marley. Oh my god. Oh shit, wait, where, okay. But they didn't devote themselves to the whole evening of music. After a while, they played forfeits, for it's good to be children sometimes, and never better than Christmas when the mighty founder was a fine child himself. Top was the first game at the blind man's buff. Of course there was, and I no more believe that Topper was a blind than I believe that he had his eyes in my boots. In my opinion, there was a ghost done a thing between him and Scrooge's nephew, and that the ghost of the Christmas present knew it. The way he went after that plump sister, then that lace tucker, was an outrage to credulity of human nature. Knocking down fire irons, tumbling over the chairs, bumping the piano, smothering himself among the curtains wherever she went. There went he. He always where his plump sister was. He couldn't catch anybody else. If you had fallen against him on purpose, he would have made a fate of endeavoring to seize you, on which would have been an affront of your understanding, would instantly have slided off in the direction of the plump sister. Yet, she often cried out that it wasn't fair, it was really not. But when at last he caught her, when, in spite all of her silken rustlings and her rapid flatterings past him, he got into a corner whence there was no escape. Thence his conduct was most execrable, for his pretending did not know her. His pretending was not necessary to touch her headdress, to further assure himself of her identity by pressing a certain roll along her finger. The certain curtain about her neck was vile and monstrous. No doubt she told him her opinion on it. Another blind man being in the office, they were very confidential together behind the curtains. Scrooge's niece was not one of the blind man's property, but was made comfortable with a large chair and a footstool in a snug corner, where the ghost and Scrooge were close behind her. But she joined in forfeits, and loved her admiration with all the letters of the alphabet. Likewise, in game of how, when, and where, she was very great, and to the secret joy of Scrooge's nephew, beat her sisters hollow. Though they were sharp girls too, as Topper could have told you. There might have been 20 people there, young and old. Young and old, but they all played. And so did Scrooge, who wholeheartedly forget the interest that he had was going on. His voice made no sound in their ears, but he sometimes came out quite loud. Came out with his guest quite loud, and very often guessed quite right. Too, for the sharpest needle, the best Whitechapel, warranted not to cut the eye, was not sharper than Scrooge. Blood as he took as his head be. Ghost was greatly pleased to find him in his mood, and look upon him with such favor, that he begged the boy to allow to stay until guests have departed. But, oh my gosh, nalitaw ako sa chapter. Where am I? Oh my gosh. Here's a new game, said Scrooge. 1/2 hour, Spirit, only one. It was a game called Yes or No, where Scrooge's nephew had to think of something. The rest must find out what. He may only be answering to this question yes or no, as the case was. The brisk fire of questioning, which was his boast, elicited from him he was thinking of a live animal, rather disagreeable animal, a savage animal, an animal that growled and grunted sometimes and talked sometimes and lived in London and walked in the streets, that wasn't made show off, wasn't led by anybody, didn't live in a menagerie, was never killed in the market, and was not a horse or an ass or a cow or a bull, tiger, dog, pig, cat, or bear. At the very fresh question that was put to him, his nephew burst a fresh of roar laughter, and was so impressively tickled He was obliged to get up the sofa and stamp. At last, the plump sister fell into some familiar state and cried out, "I have found! I know what it is, Fred! I know who it is!"
What?
cried Fred. "It's your Uncle Scrooge!" Which certainly was. And admiration was universal sentiment. Those who objected to reply, "Is it a bear?" ought to have been a yes. In such a matter answered in a negative sufficient that have diverted their thoughts from Mr. Scrooge, supposing that ever had any tendency that way. "Yet give us plenty of merriment, I am sure," said Fred.
And I would be ungrateful not to think of his health. Here's a glass of mulled wine ready for a hand of moment. I say, Uncle Scrooge!"
"Well, Uncle Scrooge," they cried, "a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, whatever he is," said Scrooge's nephew.
You wouldn't take it from me, but maybe you have it, nevertheless, Uncle Scrooge."
Uncle Scrooge had imperceptibly became so gay and so light of heart that he had pledged unconscious company in return and thanked them in audible speech. The ghost had given him time, but the whole scene passed off in a breath of last words spoken by his nephew, and he and Spirit were on again with travels. Much as they saw and far as they went, many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. Spirits stood beside the sick beds, and they were cheerful on foreign lands. They were close home by struggling men. They were so patient the greater hope by poverty, and it was rich in almshouse, hospital, and jail. In miseries, every refugees. Where vain and in man, in his little brief authority, had not made fast the door and barred the spirit out, left his blessing, and taught Scrooge his precepts. It was a long night. If it were only a night, but Scrooge had his doubt of this because Christmas holidays appeared to be condensed in a space of time as they passed together. It was strange too. Was Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form? The ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge had observed this change but never spoke of it until they left a children's 12-night party when, looking at the spirit as they led to get an open place, he noticed the hair was gray. "Our spirits live so short?" asked Scrooge.
My life lives upon this globe. It's very brief,
replied the ghost.
It ends tonight.
"Tonight?" cried Scrooge.
Tonight at midnight.
Hark! The time is drawing near. The chimes were ringing past three quarters past 11 at that moment. "Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. "But I see something strange, and not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skins. Is that a foot or a claw?"
It might be a claw, for there's flesh upon it.
It was the spirit's sorrowful reply. "Look here." From the foldings of the robe, it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung outside his garment. "Oh man, look down here!" exclaimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, rad, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility. When graceful youth should have been filled their features out and touched with their freshest tints, there's a still shriveled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them to shreds. Where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. No change, no degradation, no preservation of humanity at any grade. Through all the mysteries of wonderful creations, as monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back, appalled. Having them shown his way, he tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves. Rather brave parties and to lie such enormous magnitude. "Spirit, are they yours?" Scrooge could say no more.
They are man's,
said the spirit, looking down upon them.
and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware of them both, all of their degree. But most of all, beware for this boy. For on his brow I see what's written which is doom, unless writing is to erase. Deny it! Cried the spirit, stretching out his hand towards the city. Sunder those who tell it ye, admit for your factitious purposes and make it worse, and bite to the end.
Have they no refuge or resource? Cried Scrooge.
Are there no prisons?
Said the spirits, turning on him for the last time with his own words.
Are there no workhouses?
A bell struck 12. Scrooge looked down about him for the ghost and saw it not. At last, stroke ceased to vibrate. He remembered the prediction of the old Jacob Marley. Lifting up his eyes, held the solemn phantom, draped and hooded, humming mist along the ground towards him. Well, That was the second spirit. How are you? How's everyone? I hope everyone's doing well. That's all I can say. We're almost at the end of the story. Just 2 more chapters left. Everyone doing chilly, finey. It's getting night. Oh, it's getting super dark out now. Like really, really dark. Noi. It's getting so dark outside now. I'm fine. No worries. But thank you for the concern, though. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just fell. That's all. But nothing too serious or whatsoever. Nothing too serious. No worries. No worries. I'm fine. My bottom's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry. But thank you again for the concern. We're gonna go with chapter 4 now. The second to last chapter. The last of the spirits. The phantom slowly, bravely, silently approached. When it came near to him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee. For in this very air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head and face its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. For this would have been difficult to detach his figure at the night, and separate from the darkness by which it was surrounded. He felt it was tall and stately when it came beside him, that its mysterious presence filled him with solemn dread. He knew no more, for spirit never spoke nor moved. I am the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come, said Scrooge. The spirit answered not, but pointed onward in his hand. You're about to show me the shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in time before us. Scrooge pursued. Is that so, spirit? The upper portion of the garment was contracted for an instant in its fold, as if the spirit had inclined in his head. That was the only answer he received. Although well used his ghostly accompaniment this time, Scrooge feared the silent shape so much his legs trembled beneath him, and he feared he could hardly stand when he prepared to follow it. The spirit paused for a moment as observing his condition and giving him time to recover. But Scrooge was all worse for this. It thrilled him with a vague, uncertain horror. For what behind the dusky shroud, there were ghostly eyes intently fixed upon him, while he, through a stretch on his own to the outmost, could see nothing but spectral hand and one great heap of black. Ghost of the future, he exclaimed. I fear you more than any spectre I've seen, but I know your purpose is to do me good. Thus I hope necessarily to be another man from what I was. Am I prepared to bear what you accompany? I do with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? He gave him no reply. The hand pointed straight before them. Lead on, said Scrooge. Lead on, the night is winding fast. It's precious time with me. And no, lead on, spirit. The phantom moved away as it came towards him. Scrooge followed the shadows of his dress, which bore him up. He thought and carried him along. He scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to be spring up above them, and compass them of its own act. But they were, in the heart of it, changed among the merchants who hurried up and down, and clinked monkey, money in their pockets, conversed in groups and looked at their watches, trifled thoughtfully in their great gold seals and so forth. As Scrooge had seen them often. The spirit stopped beside a little knot of businessmen. Observing the hand was pointed at them, Scrooge advanced to listen to them talk. No, said the great fat man with the monstrous chin. I don't know much about it. Either way, I only know he's dead. When did he die? Inquired another. Last night, I believe. Why? What's the matter with him? Asked a third, taking a vast quantity of stuff out of a very large snuff box. I thought he'd never die. God knows, said the first with a yawn. What has he done with his money? Asked the red-faced gentleman with the prudentous exertions with the red end of his nose that shook like the gills of a turkey cock. I haven't heard, said the man with the large chin, yawning again. Left with his company, perhaps he has left it to me. That's all I know. The pleasantry was received with a general laugh. It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, said the same speaker. For upon my life, I don't go anywhere I go for it. Suppose we go party and volunteer? I don't mind if going if lunch is provided. Observed the gentleman with excisions in his nose. But I must be offended if I make one. Another laugh.
Well, I am most disinterested among you all, said the first speaker. I never wear black gloves and I never need lunch, but I offer to go if anyone else will. If I come to think of it, but not at all sure if I was his most particular friend. We used to stop and speak wherever we meet. Bye-bye! Speakers and listeners strolled away, to mix with other groups. Screw knew the men, and looked for the spirit for the explanation. The phantom glided to the street, his finger pointed to two persons meeting. Scrooge listened again, thinking the explanation would lie here. He knew these men also perfectly. They were men of business, very wealthy and great of importance. They made point always of standing well in their esteem. The business point of view, that is. Strictly the business point of view. How are ya? Said one. How are you? Returned the other. Well, said the first. Old Scratch has got his own lass, eh? So was I'm told, returned the second. Cold, isn't it? Feasible for Christmas time. You're a skater, I suppose? No, something else to think. Good morning. Not another word. That was their meeting, their conversation, their parting. Scrooge was inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversation appearing so trivial, but feeling assured that they must have some hidden purpose. He had set himself considered of what's like it to be. It could be scarcely proposed to have any bearing on the death of Jacob, his old partner, for that was the past, and this ghost provide was the future, nor he could think of anyone immediately connected with himself, to whom he would apply to them, but nothing doubting that whomsoever that they applied, with some latent moral for his own improvement. He resolved to treasure up every word he heard, and everything he saw, especially to observe the shadow of himself when it appeared, for expectation with the conduct of his future self would give him quickness, and would render the solution of these riddles easily. He looked about the very place of his own marriage, but another man stood in the accustomed corner, and through the clock pointed his usual time of day of being there, he saw likeness of himself among the multitudes that poured into the porch. It gave him a little surprise, however, for he had been revolving his mind at a change of life, and thought he of hope that he saw his newborn resolution carried out in this. Weak and dark, beside him stood the phantom, with his outstretched hand. When he roused himself from his thoughtful quest, he fancied himself from the turn of the hand, a situation like the reference to himself, that the unseen eyes were looking at him keenly and made him shudder and made him very cold. They left at a busy scene and went to an obscure part of town where Scrooge never penetrated before. Although he had recognized the situation as a bad repute, there were ways foul and narrow, the shops and houses wretched. People half-naked, drunken, slipshod, ugly, alleys and archways. They're like so many cesspools, disgorge their offenses of their smell, dirt, and life upon the straggling streets, and the whole quarter reeked with crime, filth, and misery. Far in this den of infamous sort, there was a low-browed, beetling shop below a penthouse roof, where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were brought. Upon the floor within were piled up beans of rusty keys, tails, chains, hinges, files, scales, weights, and a refuse of items of all kinds. Secrets that few like to scrutinize were bred in hidden mountains of unseemly rags, masses of corrupted fat, and spectres of bones. Sitting among them wares he had dealt in was a charcoal stove. Made of old bricks was a grey-haired rascal, nearly 70 years of age, who had screened himself from the cold air without by a frosty curtaining of old miscellaneous stratters. Hung upon a lime, and smoked his pipe in all of luxury come retirement. Scrooge and Phantom came to the presence of this man, just as a woman heavy bundle sunk into the shop, but she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly laden, came too. She was closely followed by a man in faded black, who was no less startled by the sight of them. They had been upon a recognition of each other. After a short period of blank astonishment, in which the old man with a pipe had joined them, the old three burst into laugh. "Let the charming woman be alone at first!" cried she who had entered first. "Let the laundress be alone second. Let the undertaken man alone be a third. Look here, old Joe, here's the chance if we haven't all three met here without meaning it." "You could have asked for a better place," said old Joe, removing his pipe from his mouth. "Come to the parlor. You made free of it long ago, you know. And another ain't stranger. Stop till I shut the door. Stop. Ah, how it stinks. There aren't such a rusty bit of metal in the place of his own hinges, I believe. I'm sure there's no such old bones here, Miss Mine. Very suitable for a calling. Well, match. Come to the parlor. The parlor was spaced behind the screen of rags. The old man racked the fire together with an old stair rod, having trimmed his spooky lamp for the night was the stem of his pipe. and put into his mouth again. Ahem. Where was I? While he did this, the woman who already spoken threw her bundle on the floor and sat down in a flaunting manner in a stool, crossing her elbows on her knees, looking the bold defiance of the other two. What odds then, Miss Dilber? Mrs. Dilber, said the woman. Every person right take of themselves, he always did. That's true indeed, said the laundress. No man more so. Why then, don't go stand staring as if you were afraid, woman. Who's wiser? We're all going to pick holes in each other's coats, I suppose. No, indeed, said Mrs. Dilber and the man together. You should hope not. Very well then, cried the woman. That's enough. Who's worse for loss of few things like this? Not a dead man, I suppose. No, indeed, said Mrs. Dilber, laughing. If you want to keep the after was dead, a wicked old screw, pursued the woman. Why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? He had somebody look after who was struck with death, instead of lying gasping out his last there, alone by himself. This truest word that he was ever spoke, said Mrs. Dilber. It is a judgment on him. I wish it was a heavier judgment, replied the woman. There should have been. You may depend on it. If I could have laid my hands on anything else, open that bundle, old Joe, let me know the value of it. Speak out plain. I'm not afraid to be the first, nor afraid to see the myth. We know pretty well we're helping ourselves before we met here. I believe so. It is no sin. Open the bundle, Joel. But the gallantry of her friends would not allow this. The man faded black, mounting the breach first, produces his plunder, was not extensive, a seal or two, a pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, and a brooch of no great value were all. They were severally examined, appraised by old Joe, who chalked up the sum disposed to give it each. Upon the whole annual total, when you found there was nothing more. That's your account, said Joe. I will give another 6 pence if I was bold for doing it. Who's next? Mrs. Dilber was next. Sheets and towels, a little wearing apparel, 2 old-fashioned silver spoons, a pair of sugar tongs, and a few boots. Her accounts were stayed on the wall same manner. I always give too much to ladies. It's a weakness of mine. That's the way to ruin myself, said old Joe. That's your account. If you ask me for another penny, with an open question, I'd afraid of being so liberal and knock off half a crown. Now undo my bundle, Joe, said the first woman. Joe went down on his knees, ready convenience, opening it. Having unfastened many knots, dragged out a large, heavy roll on some dark stuff. What do you call this? Said Joe. Bed curtains. Ah, returned the woman, laughing, leaning forward on her cross on bed curtains. You don't mean to say he took them down and brings it on with him lying there? Said Joe. Yes, I do, replied the woman. Why not? You were born to make a fortune, said Joe, and you'll certainly do it. I certainly shan't hold my hand. I can get anything by it reaching out for the sake of such one as he was. I promise you, Joe, returned the one calmly. Don't drop that all in the blankets now. His blankets? asked Joe. Who else do you think? Replied the woman. He's like take cold without them, I dare say. I hope he didn't like catching anything, eh? Said old Joe, stopping his work, looking up. Don't you be afraid of that, said the woman. I ain't so fond of his company that I loiter about him such things. If he did, you may look that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a hole in it, nor a threadbare place. It's the best he had, a fine one too. No wasted was fine by me. What do you do call wasting it? Asked old Joe. Putting him to be buried in, to be sure, replied the woman with a laugh. Somebody was full enough to do it, and they took it off again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it ain't good enough for anything. It's quite becoming for the body. He can look uglier than he did that one. Scrooge listened to dialogue in horror. As they grouped and sat their spoil, the scantily light afforded by the old man's laugh, he viewed them with disgust, which could hardly been greater, though they have been obscene demons marketing corpse itself. Ha 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 ha! Laughed the woman when old Joe, producing a flannel bag with money in it, told her several gains upon the ground. This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive, to profit us when he was dead. Ha ha ha! Spirit! said Scrooge, shuddered from head to foot. I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends to be that way now. Merciful heaven, what it is. He recoiled in terror, for the scene had changed. Now he almost touched a bed. A bare, uncurtained bed, for each beneath a rag sheet.
There, something covered up, which thought was dumb, unannounced its lawful language. The room was very dark, too dark to be observed with any accuracy. Scrooge glanced it round in obedience and secret impulse, anxious to know what kind of room it is. A pale light, rising in the outer air, straight upon the bed. Upon it, blundered and breathed, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of a man. Scrooge glanced towards the phantom. Its steady hand pointed to the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted, slightly rising of it. The motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part will disclose the face. He thought of it, felt how easy it would be to do, and longed to do it, but had no power to withdraw the veil than to dismiss the spectre on his side. Oh, cold, cold, rigid, dreadful dead, to set up thine altar here, and dress with such terrors as thou thy command, for this is thy dominion. But for the loved, revered, and honored head, thou canst not turn one's hair for thy dread purposes, to make one's feature odious. It is not the hand that is heavy and will fall down with its release. It is not the heart and pulse are still, but the hand was open, generous and true. The heart brave, warm and tender, and pulse a man's strike, shadow strike, and see that this good thing spring from the wound, and so the world with life immortal. No voice pronounced these words in Scrooge's ears, and yet he heard them as he looked upon the bed. He thought, if this man could be raised up now, what would be foremost thought? Avarice, hard dealing, gripping cares? If they would have brought him to a rich end, truly. He lay in a dark, empty house, with not a man, woman, nor a child, to say he was kind to me, just this or that. For the memory of one kind word I will give to him, a cat tearing at the door, and there was a sound of gnawing rats beneath the hearthstone, what they wanted in the room of death. But they were so restless and disturbed, Scrooge dared to think. Spirit, he said, this is a fearful place. In leaving, I shall leave its lesson. Trust me, let's go. The spirit goes. Still, the ghost pointed the unmoved finger to the head. I understand you, Scrooge returned. That would do it if I could, but I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power. Again, it's you to look upon him. If there's any person in the town who feels emotion caused by this man's death, Scrooge cried agonized, show that person to me. Spirit, I beseech you. The spirit spared his dark robe before him for a moment, like a wing, and was standing in a room by daylight, where mother and children were. She was expecting someone, with anxious eagerness, for she walked up and down the room, started at every sound, looked out from the window, glanced at the clock, tired but in vain, to work with her needle. She could hardly bear the voice of her children at play. At length, the long-waited knock was heard. She hurried to the door and met her husband, a man whose face was careworn and depressed. Though he was young, was remarkable expression in it now, a kind of serious delight of which he felt ashamed, in which he felt struggle and repressed. He sat on dinner that has been hoarding him by a fire, and when he asked him faintly what news, he appeared embarrassed to answer. Is it good? He said, or bad? To help him. Bad. He answered, we are quite ruined? No. There's hope yet, Caroline. If he relents, she said, amazed. There is. Nothing is past. Oh, if a miracle has happened. He is past relenting, said her husband. He is dead. She was a mild and patient creature, if her face spoke truth, but she was thankful in her soul to hear it, and she said so with clasped hands. She prayed forgiveness the next moment. She was sorry, but the first emotion on her heart. What was the half-drunken woman I told you last night said to me when I tried to see him in obtain our week's delay? And what I thought was a mere excuse to avoid me turns out to be quite true. I was not only ill but very dying then. To whom our debt will be transferred? I don't know. But before that time we shall ready with the money, even though we are not. It will be a bad fortune to find such a merciful creator and successor. We'll find sleep tonight with a light on our hearts, Caroline. Yes, soften it as they should. Their heights were lighter, their children's face, hushed and clustered, round to hear what they little understood, were brighter. It was happier for a house, for this man's death. The only emotion the ghost could show him caused by the event was one of pleasure. Let me seek some tender connect with death, said Scrooge, or that dark chamber spirit which you left just now will be forever present for me. The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar at his feet as they went along. Scrooge looked there to find himself, but nowhere had been there poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before. He found the mother and children seated quite round the fire. Quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were still as statues in one corner, sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing, but sure they were very quiet.
And he took the child and set in midst with them.
Where had Scrooge heard those words? He had not dreamed of them. The boys must have read them out, as he and the spirit crossed the threshold. The mother laid her work upon her table, her hand to her face.
Ah, the color hurts my eyes,
she said. The color? Ah, poor tiny Tim! You're better now, said Cratchit's wife. It makes them weep by candlelight, but I will show weak eyes to your father when he comes home. For it must be near his time. Past it, rather, Peter answered, shutting up his book. But I think he has walked a little slower than he used these last few evenings, Mother. They were very quiet again, at least he said, in a steady, cheerful voice, only a faltered once. I would have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, very fast indeed. So have I, cried Peter, often.
And so have I,
exclaimed the mother, so what all? But he was very light to carry, she resumed, and turned upon her work. His father loved him so, it was no trouble, and there is your father on the door. She hurried out to meet him, and little Bob in his comforter, and he had laid it. Little feet, poor little fellow came in. His tea was ready for him on the hob, and they all tried who should keep him to him the most. The two young Cratchits had got on his knees, and laid each child on his cheek, against his face, as if they said, "Don't mind it, father, don't be grieved." Bob was very cheerful with them and spoke pleasantly of the family. He looked at the work upon the table, and praised the industry and speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. "You've done long for Sunday," he said. "Sunday? You went today then, Robert?" said his wife. "Yes, my dear." "I wish you would have gone. I wish it would have done you could see how great a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promise you that I walk there on a Sunday. My little child." "My little child!" cried Bob. He broke down all at once. He couldn't help it. If he could help it, he and his child were farther apart than they were. He left the room and went upstairs to the room above, which was lighted cheerfully, hung with Christmas. There was a chair close beside the child. There were signs of someone having been there lately. Poor Bob sat down on it and had thought a little and composed himself and kissed the little face. He reconciled what happened and went down again quite happy. They drew about the fire and talked, the girls and the mother working still. Bob told them the extraordinary kindness of Mr. Scrooge's nephew, whom he had scarcely seen but once, and who, meeting him in the street that day and seeing he looked just a little down, you know, said Bob. Inquired what had happened to distress him. "On which?" said Bob. "For he's the pleasant-spoken gentleman you've ever heard," I told him. "I'm heartily sorry for it, Mr. Cratchit," he said. "I'm heartily sorry for your good wife. Bye-bye. How he ever knew that, I don't know." "You what, my dear?" "Why, you were a good wife," replied Bob.
Everyone knows that,
said Peter. "You're very well observed, my boy," cried Bob. "I hope they do. Heartily sorry," he said, "for a good wife. If I can be of service to you in any way," he said, giving me his card. "That's where I live. Pray come to me." "No, it wasn't," cried Bob, for the sake of anything he might be able to do with us. "So much for his kind way. It's quite delightful. He really seemed to have known our Tiny Tim and felt us."
I'm sure he's quite a good soul,"
said Mrs. Cratchit. "You would be sure of it, my dear," returned Bob. "If you saw and spoke him, I shouldn't be surprised at all. Mark what I say, if he got Peter a better situation."
"If only that, Peter,"
said Mrs. Cratchit.
"And then," cried one of the girls, "Peter will be keeping company with Tom and setting up for himself."
"Get along with you," retorted Peter, grinning.
"It's just as likely as not,"
said Bob. "One of these days, though there is plenty of time for that, my dear. But however, whenever we are apart from one another, I am sure we shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim. Shall we? Never this parting there was among us.
Never, father,
Cried they all. And I know, said Bob. I know, my dears, that when we recollect how patient and how mild he was, although he was a little child, he will not quarrel easily among himself and forget poor Tiny Tim doing it.
No, never, father. They all cried again.
I am very happy. I'm very happy, said little Bob. Mrs. Cratchit kissed him, and his daughters kissed him. The two young Cratchits kissed him, and Peter himself shook hands. The spirit of Tiny Tim.
Hello, Pebbles.
Welcome to the stream. We're just reading a Christmas Carol. Happy streaming, thank you too, and Merry Christmas to you. Spectre, said Scrooge. Something informs me that the parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I do not know. Tell me what that man was whom we saw laying dead. The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him, as before through at a different time, he thought. Indeed, there seemed no order in these later visions, save that they were in the future, into resorts of businessmen, but showed them him, not himself. Indeed, the spirits not stay for anything, but went straight on, as to the end just now desired, until besought Scrooge to tarry a moment. This court, said Scrooge, through which we hurry now, is where my place of occupation is, had been for a length of time. I see the house. Let me behold what I shall be in days to come. The spirit stopped, his hand pointed elsewhere. The house is yonder, Scrooge exclaimed. Why point that way? The inexorable finger underwent no change. Scrooge hastened to the window of his office and looked in. It was an office still, but not his. The furniture was not the same. The figure in the chair was not himself. The phantom was pointed to before. He joined once again, and wondering why and whither he had gone, accompanied by it, reached an iron gate. He paused and looked round before entering. A churchyard. Here, then, a wretched man whose name he had now learned, laid underneath the ground. It was a worthy place, walled in by houses, overrun by grass and weeds, grown by the vegetation's death, not life, choked up with too much burying, a fat repentant appetite, a worthy place. The spirit stood among the graves, pointed down to one, advanced towards it trembling. The phantom was exactly as it been, but he dreaded he saw the new of the solemn shape. Before I drew near to that stone which you point, said Scrooge, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or the shadows of the things that may be only? Still the ghost pointed downwards the grave by which it stood. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, but to which it preserved that they must lead, said Scrooge. But if the course we departed from, ends will change, say thus if I will show me. The spirit was immovable as ever. Scrooge stepped towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, he read upon the stone of the neglected grave of his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. Am I the man who lay upon the bed? He cried upon his knees. The finger pointed the grave to him and back again. No, spirit! No! The finger was still there. Spirit! He cried tight, clutching his room. Hear me! I'm not the man I was. I will not the man I must have been for this intercourse. Why show me this if I'm past of all hope? Or, for the first time, the hand appeared to shake. Good spirit! He pressed it down on the ground. He fell before it. Your nature intercedes me, pities me, and I should may yet change this chance you have shown me by an altered life. The kind hand trembled. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all year. I will live in the past, present, and future. The spirits of all three shall strive with me. I will not shadow the lessons they teach. Oh, tell me, may I sponge away the writing on this stone? In his agony, he caught the spectral hand and sought free to itself, but he was strong in its entity and detained it. The spirit restrained it and repulsed him. Holding up his hands in the last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw the alteration of the phantom's hood and dress, and shrunk, collapsed, and dwelled on the bedpost. And that ends chapter 4. I will continue to chapter 5 because we're at the last part naman eh. Chapter 5, the end of it. Yes, and that the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own. To make amends in, I will live in the past, present, and future. Scrooge repeated as he scrambled on the bed. Spirits of all three shall sleep within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven, and the Christmas time be praised for all this. I say my name's old Jacob on my knees. He was so fluttered and so glowing in his good intentions that his broken voice would scarcely answer his call. He had been sobbing violently in his conflict with the spirit, and his face was wet with tears. "They're not torn down," he cried Scrooge, holding one of his bed curtains in his arms. "They're not torn down, rings and all. They've been here. I am here. The shadows of my things who have been, and may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will." His hands were busy in his garments at all times, turning them inside out, putting them on upside down, tearing them, slaying them, making them parties of every kind extravagance. "I don't know what to do," cried Scrooge, laughing and crying in the same breath, making a perfect raccoon of himself with his stocking. "I am light as a feather, happy as an angel, merry as a schoolboy. I'm giddy as a trumpet man. Merry Christmas, everybody! Merry Christmas to you, to happy you're all the world." He frisked into the sitting room, now he's standing there, perfectly winded. There's a saucepan the gruel was in," cried Scrooge, staring up again, and going around the fireplace. There's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. There's the ghost of Christmas present, the corner where the ghost of Christmas present sat. There's the window where he saw the wandering spirits. It's right. It's all true. It happened. Aha! Really, for a man who's been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, most illustrious laugh, the father for a long line of brilliant laughs. "I don't know what day of the month it is," said Scrooge. "I don't know how long I've been with the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Never mind. I don't care. I'd be a baby." He checked in his transport to the churches, ringing out the lustiest peals he ever heard. Clash, clang, hammer, ding dong bell. Bell ding dong, hammer, clang, clash. Oh, glorious and glorious. Running to the window, he opened it, pulled out his hand. No fog, mist, clear, bright, jovial, steering cold, piping for the blood of dance to golden sunlight, heavens in the sky, sweet, fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious. "What's today?" asked Scrooge, calling out the boy in the Sunday clothes. Perhaps had loitered. "Look upon him." returned the boy with all his might of wonder. "What's today, my young fellow?" said Scrooge. "Today?" replied the boy. "Why, Christmas Day!" "It's Christmas Day," said Scrooge to himself. "I haven't missed it. Spirits have died all in one night. You can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow." "Hello," returned the boy. "Do you know the poultiers the next week but one the corner?" Scrooge inquired. "I sure hope I did," replied the lad. "Intelligent boy," said Scrooge. "A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they have sold the prize turkey was hung up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one?" "What, as big as me?" returned the boy. "What a delightful boy!" said Scrooge. "It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck." "It's hanging there now," replied the boy. "Is it? Go buy it," said Scrooge. "Walker!" exclaimed the boy. No, said Scrooge. "I'm in earnest. Go buy him and tell them bring him here, that I may give the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, I'll give you half a crown." The boy was off like a shot. Must have a steady-handed figure who could have shot off half so fast. "I said to Bob Cratchits," whispered Scrooge, rubbing his hands. His spitting laugh. He shan't know who sends it. Twice size of sign it him. Joe Miller will never make such a joke as sending as Bob will be. The hand which he wrote the address was a steady one, but right he did somehow went down the stairs to the street door, ready for the coming of the poultice man. As he stood there, waiting for his arrival, the knocker caught his eye. "I shall love it, as long as I live," cried Scrooge, fighting with his hands. "I scarcely looked at it before. What an honest expression!" As his face, "What a front knocker! Here's the turkey. How are you? Merry Christmas!" It was a turkey. He never could have stood upon his legs. That bird would have snapped it off a minute, like a stick sealing wax. "Why is it possible to carry that cannon down?" said Scrooge. "You must have a cab." The chuckle which he had said this, the chuckle which he had paid the turkey, the chuckle which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle which he had recompensed the boy, were only exceeded by the chuckle with which he sat down by breakfast in his chair again, and chuckled until he cried. Shaving was not an easy task, for his hand continued to shake very much. His shaving requires attention. Even if you don't dance while you're at it, when you have cut his end of his nose off, he'll put a piece of sticking plaster all over it, and being quite satisfied. He dressed himself all his best, got out to the street. Many people were at the time pouring forth, as he seemed in the ghost of Christmas present, and walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded everyone with a delighted smile. He looked irresistibly pleasant. In a word, the 3 or 4 good-humorous fellows said, "Good morning, sir. Merry Christmas to you." And Scrooge said often afterwards that all those blitz sounds he had ever heard were also blizzes in his ears. He had not gone far. From coming down towards him, he had a portly gentleman who had walked into his counting house the day before and said, "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe," and pang across his heart to think how this old gentleman would look upon him when they met. But he knew the path lay straight before him and took it. "My dear sir," said Scrooge, quickening his pace, taking the old gentleman by his hands. "How do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. A Merry Christmas to you, sir." "Mr. Scrooge?" "Yes," said Scrooge, "that's my name. And if fear it may not be pleasant to you, allow me to ask your pardon, and you will have goodness." Here whispered Scrooge, whispering in his ear. "Lord bless me!" cried the gentleman as his breath were taken away. "My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?" "If you please," said Scrooge, "not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that a favor?" "My dear sir," said the other, shaking hands with him, "I don't know what to say with such money Don't say anything, please," retorted Scrooge. "Come see me. Will come see me?" "I will," cried the old gentleman. It was clear him to do it. "Thank ye," said Scrooge. "I'm much obliged. I thank you 50 times. Thank you." He went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro and patted the children on the head. And questioned the beggars, looked down at the kitchens of the houses, and looked up at the windows and found that everything could yield him a pleasure. He had never dreamed that anything could have given him such happiness. The afternoon he turned himself towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up the knock. He made a dash and did it. "Is your master home, my dear?" Scrooge said to the girl. "Nice girl, very." "Yes, sir." "Where is he, my love?" said Scrooge. "He's in the dining room, sir, along with the mistress. I'll show you upstairs if you please." "Thank ye. He knows me," said Scrooge. With his hand already on the dining room lock, "I'll go there, my dear." He turned it gently, and sidled his face in, round the door. They were looking at the table, where those young housekeepers were nervous on such points. "Like to see that right." "Fred!" said Scrooge. Dear heart alive, how his niece by marriage started! Scrooge had forgotten for a moment about her sitting in the corner with the footstool, or would have done it by any account. "Why, bless my soul!" cried Fred. "Who's that?" "It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come for dinner. You let me in, Fred?" "Let him in? It's a mercy. He didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looks just the same. So did Topper when he came. The plump sister when she came. So did everyone when they came. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness." But he was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was already there. If he could be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that was the thing he had set his heart on. And he did it, he did. The clock struck 9, no Bob. A quarter past, no Bob. It was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat at the door, with its door wide open, that he might see him come to town. His hat was off. Before he opened the door, his comforter too. He's on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if we were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. "Hello?" growled old Scrooge's accustomed voice. As near as he could feign it. "What do you mean coming here this time of day?" "I'm very sorry, sir," replied Bob. "I am behind my thumb." "You are," replied Scrooge. "I think you are. Step this way, sir, if you please." "It's only once a year, sir," pleaded Bob, appearing from the tank. "It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir." "Now I tell you what, my friend," said Scrooge. "I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. Therefore," he continued, leaping from a stool, giving Bob such a dig on his waistcoat, they staggered back to the tank again. "Therefore, I'm about to raise your salary." Bob trembled and got a little nearer to the ruler. The momentary idea of knocking Scrooge down with it and holding him, calling to people of the court for help in straight waistcoat. "Merry Christmas, Bob," said Scrooge, with earnestness that could not be mistaken, clapping behind his back. "A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, that I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and deliver assistance to your struggling family. We'll discuss your affair this afternoon over Christmas bowl of smoking Bishop. Bishop, make up the fires, and buy other coats scuttle before you dot another I. Bob Cratchit. Scrooge was better than his word. He did all, and then definitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as a good friend, as a good master, and a good man, as a good old city knew, or any other good city, town, or borough in a good old world. Some people laughed to see an alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened for this globe, for which some people did not have filled their laughter outset, for knowing that such would be blind anyway. He thought it was quite well that he should wrinkle up their eyes and grins, that he have malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed that it was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon in total abstinence principle. Ever afterwards, it is always said of him that he knew Christmas well. If any man alive possessed the knowledge, may that truly be said of us, all of us. And so Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.
And that's the end of A Christmas Carol. We end our story time stream today.
Molly got a drink too. Oh my gosh, I fell off the chair with that hiccup.
But yeah, that's the end of our story time stream. And our last stream of the year. So Merry Christmas everyone though.
I almost fell off the chair, by the way. yeah, that's why I said again.
Once again, Merry Christmas to everyone and a Happy New Year. Merry absolute Christmas. And I'll see you all next year on January. This will be the last time we'll be seeing each other for this year's 2022. Yeah, it's a final stream of the year. Don't worry, it's final stream of the year. So, with that, Merry Christmas everyone and a Happy New Year for you, your family, your friends, and everyone here. With love from Velpaya Dantalion, your ward of the hidden world in the center of the earth. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.